All right, now I've got you. There we
Yeah?
go. Yep.
Now we're dancing. I like it. Yeah, so my notes was a jumbled how I operate is I for you it was easy because I was able to listen to like I'm exaggerating 10 podcasts and I've been listening to you for like a week and a half.
Oh man,
Yeah, I
sorry
know.
about that.
No, it's interesting because I feel like I have no how do I put this? Like I have no credibility talking to you. Like it was easier when I was with, Nick and Tyler because Tyler was like cut from the same cloth.
Yep.
You
Yep.
guys were in the same vein. So it was like I could just sit back and then jump in where I wanted to. Now I'm like, I got one on one. I gotta be on point, and just I was digging through it. And of course I listened to um, Levelheads like a week ago. And
Okay.
that's like
Yep.
I'm not getting the inside joke the whole time. So, so you're listening, and you're like, all right, cool, yeah, that's great that Jamie's best friends with, Spencer's builder. I love it. Like, but like,
Yep.
what's my takeaway? So I was trying to like and just trying to figure out like how to navigate it, and I try to make it feel like it's organic, so
Yep.
it's not like, oh, hey, like I listened to the podcast you did with the guy from Alaska, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, and I was
That's
just
been a
like,
minute. Yep.
yeah, I think in 2001, but just trying to get like the overall feel of stuff because it's you know it's you're a very interesting person on how you do it and how you're able to kind of navigate your own little ecosystem you know
Yeah. Well, it'll be good to. It's actually been a while since I've done a podcast, and a lot's actually changed since the last podcast I did, I think.
Okay.
Um, I've done the level heads. I've done a couple of times in the
Twice, yeah. I listened
yeah
to the second one, yeah.
the recent past. But I was the solo guy for a long time. That's what I was
Yeah,
known
yeah,
for,
yeah.
is just hammering houses out alone. And since then, hired a couple one guy full time. I've got another guy getting ready to start full time, and then I'll use another sub part time. So that drastically changed over the last couple years, probably the last three
And you have the
years.
shop too.
Right, and I bought a shop.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty radical change, honestly. For me, uh, in small business world, it's pretty big time changes.
Those are
Um,
huge. Any one
yeah,
of those individually is a big move.
it has been, yeah. But that was all birthed out of just kind of necessity to keep up. Like I just couldn't. The houses kept getting bigger, and it was literally basically a choice. Either I had to increase my capacity on what I could handle, or I just wasn't going to be able to keep up with my primary builder anymore. You
Or you have to
know,
say no, which is a hard
yeah,
thing
and
for
it's
all of us to
basically
do.
the same thing. It's
Yeah.
basically the same thing because at that level, you need to have a regular sub that you can count on who's going to be there when you need them, and splitting it different directions is just not. I just can't see that working. Personally.
It's interesting because the way we operate, not as much as the way I operated when I had my own thing.
Hmm.
I would basically someone who's going to do all my running and gunning like case and base and crown and all that stuff. I'd bring them in. I'd have a cabinet company come in and do their own cabinetry, millwork.
Hmm.
So it basically be cutting it between two people, and there'd be
Yep.
that gray area of baseboard that runs into cabinetry. Who's installing that? When does that get installed? And I would own all the materials. Meaning I'm buying you.
Hmm.
Don't think about anything. I'm going to get everything here. That was
Hmm.
my mentality because in that market space that wasn't like super super high end, I was reaching for high end.
Hmm.
I was trying to bring value when I knew the price point's the price point, meaning there's only so much you can give to these subs in this
Hmm.
price point and only so much you're going to get in the marketplace to do.
Yep.
So if I go to Kukin and grab some amazing moldings for the same price that I go with a stock one around the corner, I'm going to do
Hmm.
that legwork behind the scenes. And same difference is if I make it easier for them, I wanted that to be currency so that way
Yeah.
I'm on the list. They're going to come to me when it's between me and somebody else. It's the same. They're going to make the same amount of money over the same month time frame. How do I bring value? So I'm, maybe they answer the phone more for me, or they'll give me first dib, which is hard. But now we have, God, I was just having a conversation today. The electrician's like, hey, can you get the mill worker to do this? And I was like, which one? There's 5 on site.
Uh-huh.
So and they own, the way the company does it, they own each room. So
Interesting.
the mill worker will supply, like, whatever, if it's millwork, like we have one that's a dining room where there's built-ins. They own the built-ins, they own the crown, they own the dental, they own everything in that room, and then they're out. So like before, I would have someone on the cabinetry, someone else would come in on the actual running trim, and then the painters would roll in. So like we have someone that has the 3rd floor, someone that has half the 2nd floor, someone that has half the 1st floor, and someone has the basement.
So these are all independent contractors that are not related. They're like not under the
Correct.
same business umbrella.
Correct.
And is that because the marketplace is just kind of dominated by one-man shows to where you can't bring in a larger company that
No,
would
these are larger companies. So each trim, I know each trim crew will have their own 3, 4, 5 guys on site. So
okay,
like to talk to you about a one-man show, it's amazing to me that like I couldn't even so I'm the guy who's accountable for stuff on site, and I'd be putting my accountability at risk by putting all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that I totally get that. I think that there are other advantages that you also get, like with the situation that I had for a lot of years is, I mean, just white glove service for the builder. I want to be there. And when he needs something, I'm there to do it, to take care of it. And I think kind of like I'm hearing kind of the same on the opposite end of it. You've got that struggle with getting, is the guy going to jump whenever I call and say, hey, you got to jump on this, that, or the other thing. And the relationship, that I had was always, I felt kind of the opposite way on my end. Like I really got to work hard to keep my spot.
Yeah.
And there was just advantages. And so like whenever I was solo operating, I look back and quite honestly, I don't know how I did it either.
Really?
I don't. I mean, man, I was so focused, and just a little bit of it is, you're just in survival mode.
Yeah.
You want to do this thing, and you know what you got to do to get the job done in a timely manner. So you just have to be so dialed in. And then I think I also just had a lot of limiting beliefs about I can't hire somebody. Nobody's going to be able to do it to the level that I want it to be done. And I think those were serious limiting beliefs that wouldn't serve me well long term, because that's not true, I don't think.
Yeah. So going back though, I mean, how did you? So you were savvy enough. If I'm going to lead the witness a little bit and say, like, so when you bid these houses out solely, you're immediately starting that clock from like a countdown in my head. Like, all right, so like they're going to launch that. NASA's going to launch that thing in 10 days.
Yep.
You're counting down from your money that you bid it out at, in that sense of urgency, that drive. So
absolutely.
But that's where people get screwed up and fucked up, is because that is the precursor to everything. Like if they don't do it, so they're going to cut corners to make those things happen, and then they don't get the value that they're supposed to be, that they need to survive. That's kind of one of the underlying things I have in my notes, is like, how did you find your value? To be able to, and that's tough because like even when you were solo, I'm sure you were trying to make it make sense, the numbers. Then once you did, you're like, oh, all right, this does work. This does make sense, and then you can build off of that. But I think everyone wants to jump ahead to that. Like you had talked in a podcast, everyone wants that, immediate success. But everyone, when they have this conversation with like you or somebody else, they're like, oh yeah, so tell me about like from year 11 on, when like you were overnight success.
When it all looks good.
Yeah. So tell me like year 5 to 7, where it was like the hardest years are the first 5. And then once you shake it out, what were those tweaks that really gave you confidence to whether it was relationships or processes or skill, you know?
Yeah. Well, like first off, like I would say I did not have confidence or security in my position as a sub for a long time. Um,
Because of the market, or just you
because of
were
the
so small?
market, and you just, builders, the reality is it's business. And if a builder comes up to you and says, "Hey, you've got my business no matter what moving forward," that's maybe not a great negotiating position right there. You don't
Yeah.
you're kind of losing your position of strength a little bit. Um, but once you get to a higher level, I think in that mid range, there's a lot more posturing between the builders and the subs, trying to
Mm.
keep subs at bay with the pricing and stuff. And I think that once you get to a little bit higher level, and even a higher level after that, the relationship is paramount.
Yeah. So
Because
how did you get past that squeeze? Like, when
I,
people are
yep,
squeezing subs and going, all right, if you're soft as a sub, some builders will read that and go, all right, I'm gonna squeeze this kid for $4,000.
yep,
And then you find that happening all the time, and then you never break out of it. You just
yep,
find yourself in this kind of relentless, man. I gotta price. Then you can't price it higher, $5,000, so you can eliminate that squeeze. There's
yep.
just no market there. So what was that like for?
Well, for one thing, I think I always was savvy enough to know that you don't let them squeeze.
Hmm.
Like it's got to be either I have the job or I don't have the job. Period. End of story. If my price isn't good enough, then my price isn't good enough. But it's not an option to negotiate my price. So you
That's
can,
smart. Yeah,
yeah,
negotiate scope. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And there's always a lot of negotiating scope of work to hit a price point, value engineering and stuff like that. But I have always felt like that's the kiss of death to say, "Oh, you know what? I'll knock some money off this," because right there you're saying, "Well, your price wasn't good to begin with."
Yeah.
You
I
know,
I had room.
yeah, I had
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
and so that's key is for me to always have the integrity with my price to say, look, I'm not screwing around. This is my price. I believe this price is good. And if it's not good, I'm willing to put my neck on the chopping block and potentially lose my position as a subcontractor if it's if you so choose to look elsewhere.
Mm.
That's kind of the position I took. There's a lot of other things that go into that. I think relationships just take time to prove out between the builder and the sub to gain that sense of loyalty. You got to go to war a lot of times to build that bond and show up for the builder, and likewise for the builder to show up the sub sometimes whenever different situations come up. Like with my main builder, like he's went to bat for me many times, and I've always got his back, and I'm always watching out on the job site for things that are way outside of what my quote unquote scope of work is, you
Mm.
know. Um, so over time, I mean, it's been over 10 years now, I believe, with this one builder. So there's a ton of
You guys
rapport
have
there.
you have a party in the works, right? A celebration, like 10 years. You guys go out to dinner.
I don't think so. There's too much we got to get done to do that.
I feel like that's always a story, man.
It
I
is.
haven't gotten that. I finally got to that point where now that I'm not running my own thing, that I can, kind of not coast, but do this shit.
Yep.
So I'm with you. But how did you find? So let's bring it way back to not. I'm not taking it all the way back to the Amish,
Yeah.
which is kind of hilarious. And I have a story where my reclaim guy, Skinny Jeans Polly, he always sources reclaimed wood, and he has this thing where he has to like call a gas station, leave a
Oh
message with the gas
yeah.
station attendant,
Yep.
and then when the Amish come by, he passes along the message. They pass a message back, and then he calls the gas station like in 2 weeks to try and
Yep.
see if they have the materials, which is it's it's crazy to me to even fathom that with how much we have to. I'm talking to you from Indiana on this.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy that people would have would want to opt for a different way, and I get it. But so, like, a place, full disclosure, where I always struggle was I never found my value worth it. And maybe, like, I know you said in the podcast you're an introvert, same as me. Where how do you know how did you understand your market and understand what your value was on your skill level? You know?
So yeah, you kind of that kind of sparked a thought for me earlier. You kind of mentioned the same thing. And the truth is, like, I had imposter syndrome for so long. And it's crazy to look back. Whenever I first started, like, I wanted to be a trim sub. I did my first house. I was doing remodeling. I got asked to help on a house and got brought in to help on this amazing house. And I knew after that, I wanted to be a trim sub.
You were hooked.
I was hooked.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I envisioned like the trim subcontractor market being all of these just elite, high level, unbelievable artisans who just I could never even aspire to do what they would do. They'd be so knowledgeable and past me in so many ways that I couldn't even comprehend it. And that's just the vision that I had built up in my brain about what I was trying to compete against. And that truthfully just couldn't be further from reality.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just the truth. The truth is like in my market, there's just a lot of old school guys still slamming trim up the same way it was done 30 years ago. A lot of them are jaded, not a lot of attention to detail, and the builders are just struggling to find anybody who even cares at all.
I
And
mean, a lot of that, I think we're similar ages. A lot of that industry, like when I grew up in it, they were all chasing an addiction. And it was
yeah,
so, like they were trying to get through the day to get the paycheck. There was so many times where I learned, like, if you learn from observation, that's how I got it. Like, no one was like, "Hey, let me show you how to cut this cope." It was like I had to like look under someone's armpit to see how they were doing it. And those guys, I remember one of the first things I ever learned was that my boss would pay guys on like a Wednesday, because if we paid them on a Friday, they'd be drinking all weekend, not come in on a Monday.
yeah,
So like he would pay them midweek so that way they had to come back to work.
yeah,
And that was like I was like 17 when I learned that. And that's so correct. Same thing. It was the guys that I was with was they had like people you show like Detmore who has a van packed out and you have your amazing vans. And
hmm,
the guys I grew up with had like a pickup truck with a cover or an Astro
yep,
van and stuff was just tossed in there.
yep.
And that's what we were like. That was just a whole different market, but that was reality to us.
That's still a good portion of the subcontractor market. And my market is just guys who are running old school guys running super lean with a pickup truck with a cap on it with minimal old tools thrown in the back. That's still reality. But like, how do you know your value? Like, it took me quite a few years to just develop the confidence and realize, like, oh wait, I've put in the work, and it almost like hit me like, who has actually worked harder than I have to get where I'm at? Like, serious question, not trying to be arrogant, but like,
No, yeah,
who has studied this hard? Who has worked at this hard? And I kind of started to realize, like, I'm actually a pretty rare breed in the marketplace. You're not going to find many guys who have put the work in that I've put in. And especially after the last handful of years with kind of this crazy social media thing blowing up, and for me having access to so many incredible guys to bounce ideas off of and learn from, like, that resource to be able to put out an Instagram story, have 10,000 people, many of whom are the best in the world at what they do, watch it and shoot me messages back is
yeah,
insane.
it's nuts.
Who else has that? you know?
It's like back in the day, as if the pages of Fine Home Building or Fine Woodworking could talk back to you.
Right.
That's what we're talking about now. Is that you would look at a picture and be like, "Oh, that's cool. I wonder how they did that," and you'd hope that whether it was written or the next photo would tell you more, and it wouldn't, or
Yeah.
it would enough. And nowadays, you're right. There's no excuse to not find the better way or a more accurate way or something that has more efficiency to it that can, get you home sooner, which I love about, obviously what you've done with YouTube, and teaching.
Yeah, I think that ultimately is where I kind of realized eventually over time, like I'm I'm very, very competitive. Like I'm gonna be hard to beat. And so that kind of just gave me the confidence to feel pretty good. Like whenever I'm given a price, I've got a lot of data. I track all my data on my times on installations, and at the end of the day, it just comes down to it that, like, you know what? If you think you can get a better number, have at it. But I don't, on the kind of homes that I want to work on, if you get a number that's lower than mine, I know that you are sacrificing so much
Yeah.
because of the value that I'm bringing to the table, not just on the hands-on craftsmanship, but the communication, the ownership, all of that stuff is just really, really hard to find in the
So,
market today.
so before you found your partner in crime, what is it, Al? What is his name?
Yep, Al.
Yeah,
Yep.
look at me. I'm pretty good. I don't know Al. Sorry, guys. But
Good guy.
before you found that kind of chemistry there in that relationship, like, was the industry even looking for what you have to offer? Like, I know you can be valuable, but there may not be. It's like me overbuilding a house.
Yep.
If the market's not going to pay an extra $200,000, then why? What am I? I'm doing it because I love it.
I would say no and yes at the same time. Like, no, it was not looking for that at the level that I was competing on at that time. The builders that I was serving at that time had limited, they had use for those things, good communication, ownership, those things. But in a mid range market, that's not the primary driver. Price point is a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to pay your dues. That's the thing. Like everyone wants to get to the place where you can name your price, but that's just not how it works. You've got to
Yeah.
go to work for that lower end builder, and you've got to work for him as if he was a high end luxury builder. That's the
Yeah.
kind of service you have to provide. And what'll happen is naturally word will get around and the next opportunity will come your way. And then
Yeah.
you take that opportunity and you
I
do
think.
well
Yeah.
with that. And
I
you
think
just
those
keep moving
places are
up.
your practice grounds. Like you
Absolutely.
can go
Yep.
and playing JV or whatever it is. That's your time to figure out your routine and figure out your release. If it's baseball, whatever it is, I think that's where you can do that and try and do your numbers. I think so many guys and girls get involved with, hey, this isn't what I want to be doing. And that's what they focus on. They don't want to be in that house. They don't want to be installing that trim. They don't want. It's like me doing something modern or like working on a split level home. I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
jump off the roof, even though I know it won't kill me. It'll probably
Mm-hmm.
paralyze me. But like, I want to, it's a place for you to actually just work on your numbers, grab your data,
Yep.
figure out what it is, and then take that. So my question is like, did you have to go find the market or the builders, or was someone looking for you? You kept on your path, but how did that cross? How did Al find you, or did you find Al?
So I was just getting in, I was like just getting into the trim subcontracting. I wasn't completely full time where all my time was trim subcontracting yet. I had, I think, a couple other, probably 2, 3 other builders that I was kind of doing stuff for off and on. The amazing thing was our paths kind of aligned as we were both essentially starting. So Al, his dad was a builder, and he built basically mid-range homes for at least a couple decades, probably 25, 30 years.
Wow.
And Al came into that business, and it was not like I know where everyone's mind goes to, like you think, oh, you just walk into this business and take it over. And it was really not like that at all. It was basically like, here's the name, go figure it out. That's kind of how Al started. So Al was building mid-range homes, and he was basically just getting started building mid-range homes. And he was using a different trim sub, wasn't going great. Asked the lumber yard, hey, looking for a guy. They gave him my name. That's how we met up. So
Wow.
the really cool thing about our relationship is we've essentially grown together on both of our paths starting out. He wasn't always he was not doing the $4 million homes or luxury homes whenever he started. He grew into that, and same for me. Like I started at the bottom of the trim subcontracting world and just grew up with him.
I would love
So
to edit that song in, but it didn't. But now I'm here. Like I'll do that in the back end. But like so, but when you were juggling, to not get to Alec just yet, but when you were juggling those three other builders, how did you figure out how many projects you needed for a year, or like when should you keep looking? How, like that's my thing is like when I was doing it, you'd have I you keep going, you're like, oh, this is gonna take 5 months, and then I picked this up, and so I'm like, I just really need to get for me to feel no anxiety when I had my own gig, even way back when I was swinging a hammer doing that. I was like, all right, I need 5 builds, whether the
mhm,
renovations, whatever it is. I don't remember back in the day what the price point was, but it was probably too low. You know, I remember the story goes is that I had finished this, ripped off a garage, put up a new 2-car garage with a breezeway, and the breezeway on the second floor was like the primary bathroom, and then above the garage was the primary suite with a closet. I think I did that for like 275, 300,000, and then like maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, I closed that company because my wife was just like, we had the kid, we had Hunter, and it was just like you got to be home more. There's a balance that has to be here that I was oblivious to. I was just head down working,
mhm,
and I then went and worked for this other builder. Okay, and I was being a PM slash super slash lead. Like I'd do my own demo if need be because it would help with the budget. And then I looked at the budget. The project was very similar. Okay, and it was probably just a mirror image going the other direction in Wellesley, and it was like I think it was like 675 for the same thing, and I
mhm.
was like, dude, what was I? So like
Yeah,
I needed to get out of the business to be able to understand the values, and it was such a rub, and it still is a rub that like I go. That's why I was like I'm crushing it. Like when I have my own thing, I'm like I'm killing it. People love me. They love me. No, they love my value,
yeah,
and
exactly.
no one's gonna tell you, hey, dude, you should charge more money. So like
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to get at with my question is like, how did you figure out that maybe I only need to meet 2 builders, and then they do 4 houses a year. If I do every other house with them, this is a good fit. Like what was the thought process back then?
yeah. Well, I think that's one of the reasons that I stayed alone for so long is because I had so much fear of that,
Yeah,
of, what happens if this builder quits building as many houses? What happens if this builder drops me? How can I keep an employee busy when builder schedules are so all over the place, not predictable at
yeah,
all?
that was one of my questions I have. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they're all over the place.
we're awful. I get it. I know I'm one of them. I get it.
And it is so hard to figure out that piece. That is such a hard piece of this business to figure out is okay, if I have guys depending on me for work every day, how on earth do I keep them on a job site every day whenever you don't know what's going to happen with the schedule,
But the other side is you don't want to have to like you can almost hear it go, well, if I do that, then I have to just go more of my time has to go to business development, and I'm actually not doing what I set
Yep.
out to do.
Yep.
And part of this is evolving with our bodies and our age is that yeah, you have to then start thinking about more stuff and solving more stuff on the back end, and someone else can still be your hammer and nail, you
Yep.
know. And I just think it's so you were able to figure that out just by tracking early on.
It was just always a risk, You just kind of hoped it would work out. I would say that a couple times a year, I would probably have a break in the schedule where I would get like a week off,
That's
which
not
I
bad.
was, and
Yeah,
usually when that happened, I was all about it. I was
yeah,
desperate for it, because what I would end up doing on that week off would be basically just restocking, retooling, fixing what's broken, just doing all that kind of stuff. And
Sounds
And
like a perfect vacation for a carpenter.
it is. It actually
Playing in the shop.
yep, it relieves a lot of stress. So that's kind of what that looked like. I think things naturally evolve though. I think that's just the reality is like there's just kind of a slow evolution that happens. And I look at where I'm kind of at now and, hiring that first guy, it was kind of a slow evolution, but looking back after I did it, it was like, I don't know how on earth I could do it without having
Mhm.
another guy now. And now hiring, then I was using another sub also, probably at least half the year. So it was like I had an employee and a half, and now I'm hiring another full-time guy, and I'm still looking at the same thing like, man, what happens whenever we have a big gap between these houses, because a lot of these houses are over 1,000 man hours for me,
Mhm.
so they don't all line up perfectly.
Yeah, back to
And
back. No
right.
one. Yeah.
And I think I'm at a place where, so the social media kind of plays into that also. What I do with my time is whenever I see that we're behind, I throttle up my time a lot. So
Mm.
I'll push really hard, but then whenever I see we start to slow down, I throttle down my time on site
So they get hours.
so they
Yeah.
get hours. And then I love being an entrepreneur. I've got a gazillion business ideas and things that I'll put time into, and I just focus on those things whenever I need to, or I might just go golf. you
I love
know
it. The more I golf, the worse I get. I've come to the
Really?
conclusion. Yeah. I've played I don't know how many rounds. My phone will probably tell me. This year I played every Saturday at 6
Hmm.
a.m. since rain or shine. And I just skipped the first 2 weeks was the last 2 weekends I skipped. So
Okay.
that's a lot. And I would do a round during the week with coworkers and stuff. So it was a lot. It's
Yeah, I'll play. Like this year it worked out with the schedule. We were more laid back through July and August, so I played a ton. And then I got a group of
what's a ton? Just so like
So I've got a launch monitor in my shop, so I can hit balls in my shop anytime.
love it.
Yeah, so that's great. A lot of times I'll get just kind of practice reps in on that, but I mean, if I'm at peak golf mode, a few times a week.
Jeez, you see Jason Black from Artisan? He just shot a
Yeah,
69.
yeah, I saw
People are gonna hear
that.
it twice on the podcast because he said it last week too. But that's amazing.
Yeah. I think I shot him a message, or I at
Did
least
you?
liked it. But yeah, I saw
Yeah,
like that a boy, nice.
yeah. I'm trying to get out to him and play around one of these days. Then we're like, we should do like a whole group and go golfing and then hang out and do a round table, and then life gets in the way, and it's those things sound amazing and they do sound great. It's the follow through is tough. But
It is,
it's
and
hard enough to do this, to be completely honest with you.
yep,
It's a struggle to kind of keep it all dialed in, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, because you get the messages like that was a great combo or whatever it was, and you're like, dude, that because it's the same. I still struggle with this, like finding value. Like, is it worth it? Where like I texted you because my wife was on like the Peloton and my son's game. I actually texted you earlier on to move it back because my kid's soccer game. I was like, with the rain, I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to be racing around, and it ended up getting canceled. So we got Chinese food, but it was like, man, what am I doing? Like, how do you find the value to like pull away? You know,
yeah. Like
it's
for the
just,
YouTube stuff, or
yeah. I mean,
just.
you've created a great following on both.
Mm-hmm.
For an introvert, kudos, man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because it's tough when you do it, and like I find myself, I actually I'm trying to make a very good point of you seeing less of me in any of my content,
Mm-hmm.
because I want it to be about the work. And I know I'm not doing it, but there's, for anyone that says that I'm not actually physically doing it and I'm exploiting the work that's in front of me, if you have any idea of the coordination that goes on with these builds and to try and put people like we have a crate. I'll tell you offline the cost of the kitchen that we're putting in right now. This one millwork person that just has the kitchen. Okay,
Okay.
it's just the kitchen, and then they're doing their thing, and it's beautiful, like old school guys, like when they're taking out the putties and waxes, and so you can see they make all the pinholes go away, and I don't have to ask for it. Like, that's huge, and they're doing their thing, and then they're wrapping up, and I'm like, hey, what's your plan for the rest of the week? They're like, yeah, we're we're going to shoot out and do the hood Thursday and Friday. I'm like, cool. So you're gone both days? Perfect. I call my reclaim guy because all their stuff's installed, all their upper cabinets. So I'm
Hmm.
like, now we can put all the reclaimed wood back in, all the beams. So I'm like, Paulie, can you come Thursday, Friday? So that way, when they come back, now that step's done.
Yeah.
And I'm putting light. So it's like this whole, like, yes, it's a lot of subs, but these rooms are still the same sizes. So it's like to be able to make everything flow. Like today, you get the dining room was all prepped for the last 3 days. So then we made that a spray booth for all the millwork that was on site. So
Hmm.
then now everything's getting pulled out of the upstairs because the primary suite's getting tiled. So then I can have the floors done on that wing of the house. I've already done the left wing. So it's like, what do you mean? I'm appreciating that it's all coming together, and I'm gonna showcase that in a cool little video is my goal.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think you don't realize how much effort and coordination it takes at a certain level. It skyrockets. It goes through the roof. I don't know what the I'm assuming these are pretty high dollar homes that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Um,
The most expensive ones I've ever done in my life.
yeah, and so at that level, I mean, it takes so much coordination because all of the sub trades are interconnected. Everything's working together, and in the screw ups, if you miss something, become catastrophically expensive.
Yeah.
Um, we're I mean, we're high end in our market, but we're still nothing close to the, you know, 20 million price range homes. I can't even imagine some of the effort that goes into that size home
It's
for
fun.
that. I, yeah, I hope to get there someday. There's not as much options for that type of work in Indiana, unfortunately, but there's some out there.
Dude, I didn't know they existed in Massachusetts, to be completely honest with you. It's when I was hitting heavy, I was like 3 million was a build for me. It's
Hmm.
all in. No land, but
Yep.
just my build, and I was like above and beyond. But that would only be 14 months worth of work for me.
Yeah.
If it, so, I'm like you. I would track my numbers, be aggressive, do all that. But the only person that was benefiting was either the homeowner or the investor, depending on which
Hmm.
way I was going. And I just needed to understand. I guess I wish I. This question for you is like I wish I tapped the market. Like even today, I'm talking about we're starting another job, and the hardscape budget on this job is unbelievable. And I'm talking the landscaper on the other job that I
Hmm.
love. My son's worked for them. And I'm like, dude, you should see these numbers. And I'm like, how do I? They want to see them. They want to know how the market's being priced, and they want to get to that level because it is. There's only two in the hardscape that really go to that level, and some of the local guys will be like, I've said this before about roofing. That there's like three
Hmm.
roofers that do it: Sweeney, Modern, and Rocco, and Brett's like, no, there's other. Like I know there's others, but like there's really when you think about top three, it's like Mercedes, Bentley and Ferrari. Get me like
Hmm.
so it's that talk, and it's they would love to see the numbers now. And the father of this landscaping company's been doing it for like 50 years. So like, did you ever tap anybody else that's doing trim and just be like,
Nope.
dude, what are you charging for that? And they'd be like, oh, I'm charging $5,000. It's like, dude, I'm charging two. Like,
Yep.
because those would be huge steps. Like you could save 2 years of just bullshit.
I never did, and honestly, looking back, I think that's part of why I think I was an insane value. Same as you. I think I was an insane value because I bet I was moving twice as fast,
Right?
at least as most of my competitors, and I was probably only charging marginally more than what they were.
So they were saving
So
time like crazy. The builders, beyond like just the craftsmanship, like your 12 hours is someone's 3 days.
right,
Yeah.
and at a higher quality price point with better communication and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So like if you would look at what I was making per year, it would look like, yeah, you're making quite a bit more than the other guy. But I think the truth was
You're
like
working more.
production wise, I was
Yeah.
probably 2-3x the other guy and not actually
So
making.
they were actually more a better. They were. personally a better value. They were making
They
more
were
money.
squeezing more juice out of the lemon than I was
Yeah.
probably, but you know, that's that's just part of it. I think at the end of the day, that's competitive business though, is if I look at it and I'm making what I want to make and I have a high barrier around me to where my competitors can't, you know, knock me out or however you want to say it. Kind of like a castle, you put a big wall around you. The whole idea with business is you have a barrier to entry around you to where your competitors can't touch you, type thing. Then if I have that, then hey, I'm happy. If the builder's happy, and we're good. So that goes back to that confidence piece. Like right now, if I've had discussions with Al about this. Like at the end of the day, if he brings me a quote tomorrow from a competitor that's half what mine is, I really don't care.
Yeah.
You
He's
know,
going to lose
it,
out. It's not going to
right?
work.
It's
It's
and
just not
and
going
it.
to.
The thing is, and we've had these discussions, is like it would suck for both of us in that scenario because it would throw my business completely out of kilter.
Yeah.
I'd have to restructure things, find work with other people, whatever. I believe that they would go through an extremely painful process in their in their
Everything. Yeah.
business, and it would take probably at least a year for all of this garbage to come to fruition with what this new subcontractor would be bringing to the table to where it would be like, you know what, we actually had a really good value
Yep.
there. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think you put all your, you said the competitiveness of it and understanding your value is part of that competitiveness. The only thing I think about is I totally agree with you. I'm going to put words in your mouth. I agree with you that I leaned on quality. Quality was going to be my kind of sticking point. I do wish, looking back, that I was a little bit more money oriented. Meaning,
mhm,
why couldn't I have taken two slices of the pie and go, hey, I'm going to hold two flags and go, I'm going to do quality and I'm going to be worth the money. And I was always like, I'm going to crush whatever execution is. And someone's going to be like, hey, that's fucking awesome. Here's an extra $1,000. Like
mhm,
that, for some reason, that was my thought process, in that they were gonna find that value and acknowledge it. And the problem is, man, we're on our own. They're gonna take that
yeah,
and go. They're gonna then sell that. Like I had a boss. I've told the story before. We did this kitchen in Newton. It was on Otis Street. God, I love that kitchen. We did a ballroom there too. You would have been proud of me. I did the coffered ceiling, built it on the
okay,
ground, and slid it in.
mhm.
It was lights up. I wish social media was around back then. I was actually a decent carpenter, and I say that because due respect to the people on social media now, I'm probably not that great. But so this guy, this architect he had a kitchen he was doing over. We had done the ballroom, we had done all these other parts of the house, and he goes. This is back like when there was less like Crown Point and all this stuff. He went to Lowe's and he bought the cabinetry and then he bought every single accessory trim there was for it. So like I get to the house and he goes, here's the boxes. And there's a stack of trim, like I think 3 feet high in the middle of the room, and goes, make it look like furniture.
Mhm.
That was the parameters. So
Mhm.
we did that. And dude, I put so much into that. Like I cut like the toe kicks, made them like curved, all these things, try to make it look unreal. I still have pictures of it. I'll have to post it with this podcast. And I remember my boss walked in and he goes, this looks unreal. And it wasn't just me. I had another guy, Dave, with me, and we were all just kind of doing our thing. And he goes, this looks unbelievable. He leaves our job site, and then the client calls me and goes, hey,
Mhm.
you're doing an unbelievable job that I'm going to pay your boss more money. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, Tom just walked in and goes, hey, it's a lot more trim. It's a lot more work. It's taking a lot more time for our guys to do this. So I'm going to need like an extra like 10 grand or whatever it was. He goes, I'm going to pay him, but I want you to know I'm paying him because you guys are making it look good. So
Uh-huh.
that's driving my point home, is that was the problem in my entire life, is that
Mhm.
I would do it and then someone else would take advantage of it. Like someone else would see the
Yeah.
value and be able to cash in on it. So when did you cash in on it?
I wouldn't say, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I'm sure you've heard that
Yeah,
before.
yeah, true.
Um, cashing in sounds like getting greedy to me. and I think what you want is a stable business. And so, like, for me, I look at like, so like the position I'm in right now, I know for me to do the size homes that we're doing, I have to hire guys to help me. There's a baseline on what you gotta pay people to be able to do work. And then there's a baseline on the overhead that it takes to put the tools in their hands to do a good job. And then there's a baseline on what a reasonable profit is, in your business. And so for me, if I'm taking an objective step back, looking at my business, and I feel like I'm offering a good value and being competitive and hitting that profit, that's where I want to be. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I think that's
That's
kind
your
of a
sweet
key
spot.
thing. Yeah, you want
Yeah.
to be in that sweet spot. You don't want to be in the spot where somebody feels like they're being ever taken advantage of. That's a vulnerable position for
I
for
think
a
I think
business
both
to be in.
both directions. I think you need to be cognizant of
Yep. It's
someone
got to
taking
be
advantage.
win-win.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like Al, he's super good. Like we have a great relationship, and he also puts a lot of trust in me to not take advantage of that relationship. So like I have to be wise enough to take that seriously and not be stupid about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
you
do.
can't get greedy. I will say though, like I actually am having it's a pretty big challenge for me right now in my business because these trim scopes of work keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. All the clients want more than what their budget allows.
Hmm. Yeah.
And even whenever I'm bidding it, what I feel like is tight, they still think it's expensive. you know
Yep.
and I would say that is a growing pain that we're dealing with right now. um Especially like the houses that we get, that sometimes that there's outside architects and designers who are selling their service. Like their whole service is to put super high end details in a house that
Yep.
aren't value engineered at all you know
Yeah. That's
so
it.
then
That's their signature, and it's
that's their
based upon
signature.
you executing.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I got to price it. And it's like, well, this, this seems outrageous. And it's like, it's actually not. It's just, you're choosing literally the hardest way possible to do that. And it's going to be really cool, but it's just going to take forever, you
Yeah.
know? And even though the worst thing ever, I feel like in business, I'm dealing with this a little bit right now, is like, you think it's expensive and I'm mad because I'm not making enough money. Like this is a bad spot
Yeah.
to
It's
be
not
in,
good.
you know? So
And can
I
you
don't know.
break that? Does that break down to like a certain design or a certain room, or is it the entire house? That, like, when we say that, I feel like how do you then redefine scope? Like, do you value it into kitchens, family rooms, the big spots, or do you then, like, are you involved in that, or is that going to be Al who does that kind of? You're
Yeah.
probably giving
So
them the knowledge and the details on where it can be skimmed and cut.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the way it works, just like I'm the house we're getting ready, that's getting ready to go into millwork phase. So he's got a great interior design lady who gives me excellent specs on the millwork package. A lot of times there's renderings and things. She's already sat down with the clients and asked for their selections, guided them a little bit in the process to steer them, hopefully not to where they're too high on their allowance and also hopefully not too low. You're kind of trying to help them along in that sweet spot on where they
Yeah.
need to be. So they give me their millwork specs. I bid it, I quote it basically. I also produce the entire material takeoff for the lumberyard. You
Okay.
mentioned earlier that you were doing that for like some of your subs. Like I have to do that because it was costing me so much money from screw ups from the lumberyard that I just
Yeah.
finally said, I'm done. I'm doing the whole thing.
Yeah, and I
So,
want to get to that as well about the shop and that jump for you, and then taking more stuff into the shop. But keep
yep.
going.
So with that, I'll produce that initial estimate and the material takeoff, give the material takeoff to the lumber yard. They get their material quote. And so then Al's team has my numbers and the material numbers.
Yeah.
They'll That is all very carefully broken down. And essentially what I do is I walk through one door of the house and then I'll go clockwise around the floor plan. So room by room in my
Yeah.
quote, I have the millwork details for that room. And the whole idea with that is we want to make it as easy as possible to add and remove details.
Yeah.
So when the client is over budget and they have to choose, you know what, I want to remove some scope of work so that I can hit my budget number. They can easily do that, and we can easily make those tweaks without it just being a confusing mess for
Or
everybody.
having to rebid the whole thing. When you start
Right,
lumping
right.
stuff in and go, oh, well, dining room is this. And they go, I want
No,
to remove
no.
the
Yep,
wainscot. I want to remove, or I want to go applied moldings for wainscot instead of, full paneling. It's the same for me when we were doing renovations or anything. I would price it out. And this is for people listening, is that like when you're doing these houses and then and you go, hey, well, it's too expensive. Well, and they say, oh, can you remove your fee? It's like, no, make it easier for yourself to be able to reprice things. And if you
hmm
want to then remove scope like they should, don't make it hard. Like
yep,
you're putting yourself in the corner when you're like, well, no, that room costs X, or that addition costs X, or that roof. Like my spreadsheets used to have like, oh, you want to go with hardy siding? You want to go with Boral? You want to go with whatever it is?
yep,
My square footage was done so that way it would automatically, put in all the amounts for each material. So that
yep.
way a client could come to me and go, I looked at it that way because I wouldn't be the bad guy. Me personally, that
hmm
introvert part, the spreadsheet was the focus.
Yeah,
That was my jam. Still is.
yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Like with a lot of times, the trap that you can get in as like the trim sub is, let's say you're used to trimming these homes and they all kind of fall in a certain price range on what the trim package is usually at. And then all of a sudden you're asked to bid this trim package and it's just way up there. What you naturally start doing is like, I must be too high. I must have something wrong. And you start trying to tweak things down to hit a
We
number.
start rounding down on certain
Yeah, yeah.
scopes. Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, this is just not what where we're normally at. And you find out
I'll make
that,
it work. I'll make it
yeah,
work.
and
I'll
you
work a
find
couple
out,
Saturdays.
right. And you find out that your numbers were actually exactly where they were supposed to be. And that's part of the learning experience, is like I've had to learn, like, Spencer, like, you know what you're freaking doing. You know how long this takes, and your gut is usually right. So it is what it is. And that's hard to do, though. It's really hard to do.
You know what's crazy is that like I look at this and when I figured out like when I was doing like the fine home building stuff years ago, and they're like, yeah, you should write a bio. And I'm like, all right, so like how long have I been doing this? I'm like, I've been doing this for like 19 years. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's a stretch, man. Like and even still, like I'm just realizing it now. It's like, so like I was thinking to myself, I'm like, someone asked me like, yeah, the drone works really good, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for a couple of years now. And then I look back, I've been doing it for like 11 years, flying
Yeah.
drones, like almost twice a week. And it's
hmm
like, yeah, I should be good at this. But it's like to try and have that epiphany where, it's funny how we probably all memorized it, memory, and be like, oh, dude, like there's also the other part of it is I've been doing this long enough that I need to be good at it. Like if I'm not,
hmm
I should
Yeah.
change it up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it is, and that revelation has been key for me, is like realizing, like, okay, if just kind of like looking at myself and be like, okay, who has put more work in than you?
Yeah.
You know, and there's confidence that comes with that. Because I know a lot of guys would look at me and like think it's crazy, like, you struggle with imposter syndrome and all this stuff. It's like, yep, just like everybody else.
Yep.
You know, I still, and I think that's part of where we get our drive to to do well is because we don't feel like we belong.
You're
We do have,
proving
yeah,
yourself wrong,
yeah.
so
Like
that way you can be right.
right, we have
Yeah,
something to prove,
100%.
If we felt like we had it all figured out, like where's the drive coming from then?
Yeah, you'd coast a little bit, and you'd let
Yep.
a couple edges and a couple corners. Like I put my vanity in upstairs, and I literally go to work. I'm like, dude, you should see these scribes. Okay, guys, like I still have it. There's not one screw in the thing, and it's all scribed tight till like it's on three sides. And I'm like, that's talent. So like I literally want to bring the guys from work to my house, which I won't do, and be like, dude, see? Like, look at this. I've been watching, like I've been out of the game for a minute, but I love watching how guys do it now and giving carpenters like this guy Brian that did our last curved stair, man. One guy, and
Hmm.
he was just this like I didn't love how he operated, meaning he would empty his entire fucking truck out onto like folding tables. So he would take over like this whole area. And for him to unpack and then pack up was like
Oh man,
it was crazy to me. And so
I've
like
seen that before.
right? But like he's so talented that I'm like, why? Like I've literally said to him, I'm doing this for 30 years. You're the most talented guy I've seen. Like
Yeah.
hands down, what he's able to do. And like I would walk people in the house and be like, so Brian's on the stairs. Don't talk to him. He's gonna probably curse, but he's talking to himself because he's just trying to manipulate this whole thing, and he sees the vision, and that's half the battle. And it was just great to see that. But we had a carpenter that was like my assistant super who's supposed to stay bags on. And like this company's great because they're able to have the resources and bake him into the project where he's able to stay in there and be like a sidekick to me for 10 months during a build.
Hmm.
So he gets the management part of it, but then I'm like, hey, go hang with Brian for the next 2 days doing that staircase, how he figures out handrails and all that stuff. Just go through osmosis and go do that. And I remember then he moves on to this next job, and the big boss is like, so what do you think we should do for him? Blah, blah, like get him dialed in for like, should we get him a bigger sprinter and stuff? I'm like, yeah. I go, hands down, he's got to get organized. I go, the one guy that's like top tier to him, the way he operates is he pukes out his entire truck in the project. I go, so then he starts doing it. He starts setting up a table and doing that because he's a younger guy. But when you do see talent and talent, you do try and pick up what you can that works.
Oh yeah.
And I was saying to him, you got to go with, the sustainer system. So that way he also carries a tool belt that has like, I can't say it without a straight face, is that I used to carry everything on my belt too, like multiple drills, everything that hooked onto the damn thing. I would carry it. And that's what he does. So he's got like all the sockets, everything like hang. He's like Santa Claus walking down the street. And I'm like, he's got to get the mentality where he's thought out enough of the day that he's only carrying what he needs. Like I told my boss, I go, I'd like to see him go to an apron and not a belt to force him to be more organized and have this workstation,
Yeah. A lot of those stair guys, they're savants, They're
Yeah.
I can't say I've seen some pretty good stair guys too, and they all kind of have that same vibe. Not super organized, but a lot of them are crazy lean in their setups. They can do so much with so little.
They're like MacGyver. Some of the stuff he had was
Yeah.
stuff that he made.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, what is, and then he gave some of the stuff to my guy. He's like, yeah, just take this. And I'm like, dude, that thing's a piece of shit. Like, you're going to hurt yourself with how he drilled straight up into the bottom of the rail. It was this contraption that was like, he had to tighten bolts and put Loctite on them every like fourth time he used it. But he swore by it because Brian gave it to him. And it's just funny to like, so for you, what was the thing that really like put you on a path on how to be organized, and how do you have the, like, what did you look up to? I know you had this vision, this epiphany of like how you want to see it, but with reality staring you in your face, what pushed you in the direction that you're super organized?
I always dreamed. So like literally when I was a teenager, I would like browse Contractor Talk and I would save pictures of trailers and like I'm
Psycho.
dead serious. I am weird.
I love it.
I had a library of photos of trailers and vans, and
You're a sicko.
it was literally my dream. Someday I want to have that. And part of that dream was birthed because the guys that I worked for in construction, it was a disaster. Same
Yeah.
thing. You show up to the boss's house in the morning, you throw what tools you think you need in the back of your pickup truck. You end up not having stuff, and like that's how I started out working, you know. And I
Yeah.
knew that it didn't work. I knew I didn't want to be that way. And then it came to, okay, now I'm a one man show trim subcontractor, and literally every minute counts in my day
Yeah.
because I have to get these houses done in a timely manner, and I cannot be wasting time looking around for this or that or not having the stuff that I
Or
needed.
going to the store
Yeah,
and because
no,
you
absolutely
realize
not.
how long that takes
Yep.
hitting three stoplights and then going in there and maybe there's a line. Like I put earbuds in so no one even talks to me. Like even the cashier, I'll go to self
Yeah.
checkout. Like I'm going to self checkout so I don't have to deal with anyone. So don't ask.
Yep. Yep. Like back in the day, obviously this wouldn't be a rate today, but $60 an hour, that's real easy math. That's $1 a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Start thinking about your time like that. $1 a minute.
Yeah.
Every time I have to go get a screw because it's not in the toolbox that's already on, inside the house. I have to go out of my van. Well, that took 5 minutes. That's $5 that just cost
$5.
me,
Yeah.
five
That's a
bucks.
coffee.
Yeah, yeah, and so kind of that mindset, just super lean and cognizant of your time, that helped. And like now with having employees, I mean, probably even more focused on it because they're naturally not going to have the same drive that I would. And so it's super important for me to make sure that they are set up to have everything that they need so that they can operate at that high level too. So my vans are all set up literally exactly the same.
Yeah. That's
Same
awesome.
toolboxes, same tools in every toolbox. They have everything that I have, and it's so that we're set up for success,
There's no excuses. One of
There
my old
is no
bosses used to say
excuses.
that. He
Yep.
used to say, "I'm going to get you all the tools and give you all the direction, so there's no excuses."
Yep.
He'd also be a guy that also ordered like two sticks short of everything, so that way he'd come in and fucking be furious if like he saw a bunch of cutoffs. But
Okay.
that's how he taught us to be like, I'm not getting you stock. And he'd tell us like, I remember this. He's like, all the mahogany came from Rhode Island, so I have to drive all the way back to Rhode Island if you screw this up. Like everything was a
Okay.
test to me. Everything I used to say this all the time. Like everything we did was a test. And I'm like,
Oh
dude, he's got
man.
to go back to Rhode Island if I screw this up. So like every cut I'd make, it was like this big deal. Like, did I
Yeah.
think out how many pieces I have left? How many cuts do I have left? He ingrained that in my head. I don't know if it was tactical or if he was just being a cheap bastard, but that's how he rolled, and that's how I
Yeah.
grew up. You know,
Yeah.
it's so. But what? Who? Like how? I want. Like how do you pay for all that? The trucks and then setting it all up, because that's a common question that I get from carpenters around here. It's like, I'm going for a job interview. Do they include tools, or do I include all the tools? Like back when I
Yeah.
did it, I bought all my own stuff,
Yep.
and you rolled with what you had.
Yep. Um, and I think the answer to that for me has been slow growth and just careful attention to the finances. You got to be good at strategy too in business. You've got to be good on that business end of things. And for me, I always operated no debt. First van that I bought, paid for it cash, paid for the tools cash. Van I just set up, paid for it cash, tools cash. Um, and I, I've I don't want to make it sound like it's just some piece of cake because it's not. Again, like people think, well, how do you do that? And it's like the reality is like I worked my freaking butt off for a long time, and I spent long days, working 6 days a week almost all the time to be able to do that. It doesn't just happen by accident, you know. It takes a lot to do that, and then you throw the social media component on top of that where I monetize that too, these different things. So I don't want to make it sound like it's just a piece of cake.
But there's a lot of
That
guys that work 6 days a week and they're dead broke.
Yeah.
because it's just trying to figure out where that value is. So I guess to take it back a little bit, did you ever get a pushback on when you thought your numbers were dialed in and you found your ceiling? Is my point, or were you always right there, and it always just worked? You get me? Like, did you
Yep.
find yourself that, hey, when you started, you were $35 an hour, then you're 40, now you're at 60, and 60 works. I don't need to ask for 65 because all my numbers work, and then I can see you going, all right. Once we wrap up this project, I can buy said van.
Hmm.
Like this is how it almost like for me. I'm picturing you going, all right, dude. I see the finish line. I got to hammer through the next 3 weeks through this house, and then that van that I know is already sitting at the lot is mine, and I can get
Yeah.
it lettered. You know?
Yeah. I mean, a little bit like that. I think I was growing slow enough that I was ahead on cash. I
Yeah.
wasn't waiting. I wasn't really having to push, like, I got to do this number of jobs to get the van. I was growing slow enough that I had already accumulated the cash to
So
pay
then
for it.
you were just doing straight labor, right? Like you
Yeah.
weren't supplying
Yep.
doors, casing, any of that stuff. So it's no material out of pocket. Like
Nope.
the amount of the for you to get screwed, it's really just your time.
Yep. Yep.
And so then you could be, and you're doing what? Are you billing weekly, bi-weekly? What was your kind of or was it
No,
per
so
space?
no, not even like so. Generally, I have always waited to send an invoice until I've completed the house.
Fuck you. Like
Yep.
what? Don't even say that to me.
And this will really blow your mind that even today on the houses that I'm doing, I'll still usually not send an invoice until I'm completely done with the house. And I'm, like I said, 1,000 man-hour jobs.
Okay.
I'm
I
I'm
feel like this
carrying
should be
that.
like the guy that talks really fast for the medicine commercials and be like, so this is not an advocate of. And the side
Yeah.
effects of this are going broke, being divorced,
Yeah.
losing your house, losing your cars, and your whole family.
Yep. But you know what? I mean, yeah, I don't know. And maybe that's something part of it too is like it annoys me having to constantly invoice. I would imagine it annoys the builder, the person who's doing the finances for the builder to constantly have to try to keep track of on this 6 page, QuickBooks quote for this house, which line
Yeah.
items have been billed for and which haven't. So part of it is, I don't know, a little bit of laziness. Part of it is I also like the drive that it gives me to keep pushing and get the job done.
God
But
damn,
yeah,
man.
I also think that like that is actually a value add for me that I do give the builder because frankly, good luck finding anybody else who's going to carry
Agreed.
that dollar amount of labor for
But you
that
have to be
long,
really
you
smart
know?
about who you partner with if that's the case.
And
Because there's a lot
and
of guys in our
a hundred
area that
percent.
I talk to that they use the subs as a bank. Meaning, hey, you
Absolutely.
got to
Yep.
wait 60 to 90 days because I know there's companies that are all over social media. Not, and people hear me say that it's not close people like Nick and those guys. There's people that are on social media that have a whole ton of in-house carpentry, and they have to keep so much money coming in to keep those people fed that they don't pay the actual subcontractors like plasterers, plumbers, HVAC electricians, all those guys. And to be honest with you, until a point where it's gotten to a point where they need to get this, what my mechanic call it. He called somebody, they're a skidder. They skid in, they skid out. They pay people as they need them next.
Uh-huh.
And that's what happens. So you have to be very smart about who you're partnering with. And that's how I failed with my thing is
Hmm.
that like my client on one of my products, we were running 4 products in my division, and one of my clients was always 30 days late. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't put my guys in jeopardy. Like most of my subs can't wait 30 days to get paid. So
Yeah.
I went and got a credit line. What I should have done, and this is me thinking about it every morning when I wake up, is I should have said, stop and pay me. If you want to do a $3.1 million project, you should be able to pay me on time because there's a lot of livelihood involved here
Yep.
beyond me. And I didn't because I didn't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Instead, it was I went to a bank, did all that, put my house up for collateral, all these things, personal guarantee. I did all those things instead of having one conversation with the client going,
Yeah.
dude, do me right. I'm doing it right here, and I should have had that conversation.
Yeah, and I would definitely caveat that for the guys who I know who are listening that that is not good business. you know, don't yeah, but that's a 10-year relationship.
Yeah,
And that's the highest compliment that I can pay to Hammond Homes is to put that kind of trust there, because I would absolutely not just go to any other builder and do that. Zero
yeah,
chance. Zero. That's the product of a very long-standing relationship. And it's just kind of like, you know, the houses used to be realistically probably a fourth or a third of the trim scope.
mm-hmm.
And whenever they were that size, probably wasn't as big a deal to just wait until the end to invoice it. And it's just kind of naturally grown over 10 years to now the numbers just keep getting so big that
You're a psychopath.
maybe I do need to just stop and reassess what I'm doing here.
Maybe just bill halfway through. I don't know. I don't think
I
you need to.
I will occasionally, like I'll send probably usually it's more like 3/4 of the way, just whenever I get the sense like, all right, I want to get some cash flow here,
Yeah.
but I have to also have enough line items completely closed out to do that and stuff. And then
You're not gonna do like 70%, 60% for line items. I get it.
no,
Yeah.
it's got to be 100%.
That's the
So
competitiveness of it. You need to finish it.
yeah, like I said, it gives me drive to want to like, all right, let's get out of here. Let's get this done, and so I can send an invoice.
I feel like you're old
drag it
school
out.
like me, where for the longest time, forever, I was always a task oriented person. Meaning,
Yep.
if I put it in my head, I'm going to get these walls stood on the second floor. I'm going to stand these walls. I don't care if it's midnight. I'm
Yep.
standing these walls and that was always my drive. And I'm with you. I think I'm honestly envious that you're able to make it all work and that you've been able to grow the way you have. And it's a very similar thought process I had. It's a different market, and there's a lot more sharks, I feel like, out here that I thought I could get away with. I think you said on one of the podcasts, like I'm old school. I'm a handshake, and I'm like, God, son of a bitch. I let ego, pride, and all that stuff get in the way. Where I thought the last 10 years I had before I started Vintage, we would just execute. We would
Mm-hmm.
make things happen with someone go, hey, I want this idea. I'm like, done. Like right now, I pride myself when these clients that are some billionaires are like, I want this. Can you do it? The answer will always be yes. And I have to
Yeah.
back it up. And I love that part of it. But I was doing that for other people, then doing it for myself. And the problem is that I didn't love my connection to the money. Like it was weird. Like I had value when I was able to create. I didn't have value when I was making a ton of money. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To me, I wasn't as valuable. I liked the product. I liked the finished product and giving, like the client we finished the house for with the barn that we just finished, like they're having party after party. She texted me over the weekend. She's like, yes, we're having a Halloween party. I need some 20 amp circuits for the inflatable stuff. I'm like, oh my, it brings me so much. That's my currency.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to say, hey, here's an extra 10 grand, that is like partially insulting. Yes, I'll take the money, but B, like the having them have parties and have people over all the time, knowing that all those memories are being made, that is my jam, and I
Yeah.
don't know how to put a value on that,
Yeah.
so now it's not my job.
So then that kind of leads into like the question of I feel like as you get into the higher end jobs, finding that gratitude is harder because it's expected. You know what I mean? Like they're paying a huge amount of money for these homes and like they expect perfection.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit harder, I feel like, to please people. You do have like great clients, definitely, but there's probably even more of them where it's just like your best work is just that's what's expected.
Yeah.
And I've kind of found like I can't depend on outside, I don't know what you call it, affirmation or whatever to
Mm-hmm.
get my fulfillment. I have to get that internally because then what happens whenever the client is ungrateful or
Yeah. It hurts even
do
more.
then do I get cynical and um have animosity and all that because they're not appreciating my work, and it's like, eh,
This is
I
what I
try
do for
and
a living. I think
yeah,
that's, to be honest with you, I think that is partially why our industry was a bunch of addicts. Because imagine doing this for 45 years
oh yeah, yeah,
and just getting broken down and being like, hey, their gratitude is throwing you a beer at the end of the day. There's
yeah,
so many times when I was younger that almost every person was like, hey, want a beer? And I'm like, dude, this is like crazy. Have you seen the guys? That guy's doing blow. That guy, the other carpenter, he does blow at lunch.
hmm
Like it's crazy to me that it that's I don't know. I'm with you though. It's not I don't need the person to really actually even give me that reward. I just love the fact that, like, I remember I told the story about how we finished that big house that we just did, and I'm not looking for anything. Yes, I did my job. Okay, I did my job. To me, it's my job to be able to give gratitude to all the trades on site that
hmm
they are doing an unbelievable job, and I'm recognizing that. But above me, I don't need it from my boss. I don't need it from my coworkers, and I don't need it from the client. What I do want is I want to make sure my job's done. Is like when I walked in this mudroom and I looked down all the way down the back of the house. You could see through the back of the house, and there's a fireplace, and the son was sitting there like reading a book in front of the fireplace, Indian style. And I was like,
hmm
done.
yeah,
Like right away, I
yeah,
filled all the way up to the brim, and I'm like, this is why I do it. And it's
yeah,
those moments is having that. And because, dude, none of our colleagues get to see these houses. Yes, we get to post it on social media, but
hmm
there's a difference between you taking a picture of something or a video and someone walking it and feeling the drama of these spaces. Like you're doing the acoustical ceilings right now, and it's like, dude, I get it. And the reveals, like you said today, yeah. So we cut that reveal with a track saw, and I'm like,
yeah.
dude, he's on staging over his head.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
is anyone else getting this?
No,
Like,
nobody gets it.
like
Nobody gets it. Like you are sitting there and I am just inhaling this dust with pushing up as hard as I can with a
yeah,
track saw over my head while my guy is on the other end pushing the track saw up against the ceiling because we don't have a place to put a clamp on
clamp,
it.
yeah,
And
and you
it's
don't
just
want
like,
to pin it. Yeah,
it's just another day at the office as far as anybody else is concerned. Like, oh, what's the big deal? Like, that's off a little bit, It's like, I just worked a miracle on this ceiling,
yeah.
over and over and over again.
But the
But
thing
it's
is, though,
just what we do.
the competitive part of what you just said was, yeah, someone will go, oh, if it's off a little bit. But you could do all that work, all the pre-work that you did in the shop for the reveals and how it all snaps in,
Yep.
and then do everything how it all lines up perfectly, and then that saw could be off. Okay,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
all you and I would ever see.
Yeah.
It's ruined. Even
Or,
if you get paid in full for it, it's
yeah.
in your eyes
Yeah.
that haunts you.
It is, and that's why I literally have a track saw over my head and I'm cutting it like that, is because we were trying to do it with a more standard technique, and I just couldn't get it to line up the way I
Yeah.
wanted it to line up. And finally, I was like, you know what? We're cutting it on the ceiling. We're installing them long. We're cutting it on the ceiling because that is the only way to achieve perfection, and that's what we need here. So,
And no one's asking for that. That's what I love about it. It's like, this is you and you
yep.
alone. And then, so how do you ever deal with your coworkers going, this dude's fucking crazy? Like,
He's
you hear
used
the
to
whisper,
it.
or like, so guys, we're gonna grab the track saw. I'll meet you up on the staging, and you hear them rumbling behind you, going like, is he serious about this? But I
Yeah,
love that
like,
you're gonna cut it and not have them do it.
yeah, 100%. And that's
I
why, like,
love that.
I've been there every day on the install
Yeah,
because I am going to be the one that cuts it,
yeah,
in part because I don't want to put that on his shoulders because it is a lot to ask. Those panels are $150 a panel.
hmm
Like, and like when we're making that cut, one of the cuts is a cut all the way through to like cut the whole panel off completely through in a straight
okay,
line. Then we move the track over 3/8 to give that reveal. We've got a 3/8 reveal, that gap going down the middle there and all the way around the perimeter. If you forget to set the depth on the track saw back to where it needs to be for that
yeah.
3/8 reveal,
Take it down.
you take it down and you you just blew a lot of money, really fast.
The best
So
part is I wish you videoed like, hey, pull the line over there. Hey, do you have the same fat max as me? I don't want to make sure the two tapes are two different tapes and that
yeah,
you're pulling 17 feet and I'm pulling 17 foot one.
yep,
Like it's that whole conversation of verification of where it all lines up and then you just eyeballing it. Like that's a 15-minute. Like Brian, that carpenter I was talking about, we had this S curve railing on a balcony out of mahogany made. He made a cut on it, and I've pointed out to every single person that walked it. I go, it would have taken me 3 months to get the balls to make that cut that he made. I'll
yeah,
send it to you via text. I still don't know how it is perfect, but it would have taken me so long to be able to go, all right, we had it fabricated down Rhode Island by HD Pocket, not HD Pocket Tour, HDI, who makes some amazing stuff. A lot of young carpenters down there, and they make everything. They make the room in their shop. They make a duplicate room, and then they basically frame upstairs and
hmm
laminate everything. And I'm like, you know how long it would take to have that thing made? And I can't say that to Brian or whoever it is. Like, hey, don't fuck that up because it's going to take us like 3 months to get a new one, and then walk away. Like that's not
yep,
helping anybody.
yeah.
So it's interesting,
That's what we do, though. I mean, we make average wages, but a lot of times we are performing these tasks on $8,000 entry doors or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Where if you measure wrong or drill the wrong size hole or something, you are screwed. But that's that's the business we're in, and I look at it at the same time, like looking at the builder though and the liability that they are juggling every single day with all of the sub trades and vendors that they have under them, that they're trying to bring this house to fruition, and like what I'm doing is nothing compared to that. It's an easy day. So
Yeah.
it's I say that with a grain of salt at the same time too, because I don't have the guts for that. I just don't.
Yeah, but you don't invoice till the end. That's amazing. I think they're both in one of the same. I'm not going to keep bringing it up because I don't want people to try it at home. But it's I want to figure out. So the one thing I want to talk about that I did here on the podcast was I'm trying to scroll through my notes, and I think you said you value a builder that it was you, Jamie, and Mike, and those guys,
Yeah,
Zane. We're talking about how a builder that's a true builder isn't as valuable as a builder that has a business background or handles their business better. And I I would love to call all three of them back into this conversation right now because I was screaming at my truck radio.
oh, I will 100% have this conversation with you. Obviously I've listened to you a ton over the years on Modern Craftsman and stuff, so I kind of know where you're going to be at on this. Um, it's a good conversation. And I think that like we got to be careful too, just first starting off with the vocabulary, like what is, a true builder, and like what you're defining that as. If it's a guy who can strap on a tool belt and frame a roof, well, then
He's a
I would say,
contractor.
well, yeah, I would say like 99% of quote unquote builders are not true builders then,
True.
because
Yeah.
that's not the industry anymore. That
Correct.
model, I would say, actually doesn't work at all in
You're
the
saying bags
modern
on.
bags on, or just, yeah, I mean, certainly bags on. And you have to step back and like look at, okay, what are the thresholds we're talking about here? Are we talking about building one house a year at under $1 million? Are we, how many homes are we talking? Because that's where, when there's a threshold where you have to kind of stop looking at it as the builder, and it becomes a company, a culture. And for me, as a trim subcontractor wanting to work on luxury homes, that's the kind of builder I want to be aligned with, is someone who is building a company and a culture, and is just has enough top line revenue in the pipeline, for me to build a business off of. And I don't think you can do that being the bags on mentality builder. You've got to be a guy who can lead an organization at that point. That's my thought.
Mm-hmm. What? I didn't say anything. I thought you were gonna keep going. No, I agree. I think I struggled. That point is perfect. It makes complete sense because as you're saying that, I'm scrolling through the different positions I've had over the years, and when I was so I value the knowledge I have, and I bring it to the job site, and I think I haven't. I will do. I'll do a video and I'll walk around and ask everyone if they value me and if it makes their job easier, and if business. Because here's the thing: nowadays, I don't have to worry about any of the money.
Mm-hmm.
All the invoices get paid. They all go to the office. If I see one, I have to hit forward. That's the biggest thing I have to do. So yes, to your point, if the system is there and everyone has drank the Kool-Aid, meaning that someone in the back office can go, oh, I can pay that whenever I want. No, if you pay that whenever you want, then it trickles all the way down to me asking for something, and everyone has to be doing their part. But I guess the rub that I had with it was that if I've watched companies around my area, I'm not going to name them, that
Mm-hmm.
will take on, like, let's say there was a mediocre builder and they bring in a business guy, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
then they take off, they start flying. What happens is it's like an estimator. An estimator, and again, it probably works. There's probably some amazing companies that it's worked for. From my, I kind of keep an eye on everybody. Not like I'm racing everybody. I'll race people that are building stuff at the same time as me, but keeping tabs on who comes and who goes, who's a phase and who's not. And I find that those people, the execution doesn't hold up. If they have an amazing business sense, it can fall apart because the subs that they're using on their end and having all the numbers work and paying these people and the execution that they're charging for doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a rub. And I don't think that's the point you're trying to drive home. I value that. I think someone could be very good at paying the bills and have a lot of projects in the pipeline, and they can also hire the best, most expensive subs. If they don't know how to run a job site, it's it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't. To your point, if you're doing one a year, you can get away with it. If you're doing a multi-million-dollar build and you're doing 2 or 3 of those a year, I mean, it's really all you really need to keep a system going. And you do that, you can't turn around and hire all the best subs and go, hey, here's the drawings, here you go, and hand it off. And that's what I hear a little bit when it's like, oh, you have to have more business sense than construction sense.
Well, I'll push back real quick here on that.
Hit me with it.
So let's say top line revenue 20 million. A builder at that level, I just do not feel like can be concerning himself day in, day out with the nuances of just the intricacies of what's happening on the job site, because there are higher level tasks that need attended to. And I think he can build a team under him that can handle that on the job site. I think that's what a good builder building a good organization can do. Now, if we step back, like if you're, I don't know, in that range where you're just doing a couple homes a year, it's more manageable. But I don't see how it's possible once you get up to a higher price point. You know what I mean? Like, think, like, let's just throw, like, Brad AFT. Like, I just
Why are we going to throw him in the mix? Because he's phenomenal.
yeah.
Like the market, the product, the people. I mean, the kid can't hit a single. He only hits homers.
Well, and maybe he's not, like, I'm picking like the top of the line there, but I'm just saying, like, he's running a company, and with an extremely high business acumen, I think. And I don't think it's reality. I just don't. And, like, so from my perspective also as a trim sub, I actually don't have as much of a value add to a builder who is going to be over my shoulder all day long every day, micromanaging every detail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me handle that. I'm good. Like, you give me the specs, you can trust me to run with it. I'll check in with you if I have questions. You're, the reality is I'm getting, you know, really, I don't need checked on. I just
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
so
But
if
but I
I'm,
also think that part of that is like when you're saying that, I think that's the guy that doesn't have the construction sense. Like that's the business guy trying to stay all over it. Like I guess to even pull this back, you threw out your example of Brad. I think if we break it down even smaller, is that so? Yes, let's just say this person. Let's say Timmy. Timmy, there's two Timmys side by side. Timmy one and Timmy two, and they grow a business. Okay, and one is a business end of it, has a business degree. The other one is has been a builder their whole life. Now they're building a team.
hmm
I don't disagree with you. I think to do 20 million, you're not doing it solo. You're absolutely
yeah,
out of your mind. There's no way. Even if you're doing
hmm
one house at a time, you need multiple supers. There needs to be people that are having their own points of contact and their own priorities and their own whatever um, day to day. I think what I was taking away from that is I would lean towards someone that has experience on. I think I could hire out the business end easier than I could hire out the construction end.
okay, yeah,
That's where I think that's where I land on it. But because I think you're right. I think someone needs to be. I just think that if you had a super on the ground that had a business degree and not a construction management degree or that experience level, they're fucking useless to you.
hmm
That if I'm like, let's say so you have that guy and it's like, all right, yeah, I'm ready. My management software says I'm supposed to have you here today. I need you here today. And then they just do that. And then you show up and you're like, you're not fucking ready. There's no trim here. There's no doors here. But
yeah,
they make you show up. You do that 2 or 3 times. They've burned a huge amount of that could have been your cushion for that project, but you kept showing up. So I look at that as that's my value is that I want to make sure that I know when everything works and when to have people there so that way the efficiency is there, and people push back on me like on social media like, oh well, why you Mike, I did a class at JLC and I asked for the reviews, which was stupid, but I asked for it anyways. I wanted the feedback and like there may have been 150 people that said great things. I read the 3 like negative ones
hmm
and one of them was like, oh, it was a 3-hour class and like he's just a micromanager. And dude, that one comment is absolutely like drilled down at me because I'm like, I just check in with. I'm just a cheerleader, but I do need to make sure that specs are being met. And like when I say, hey, the concrete guy, I'm going to order his concrete. I'm going to order the rebar. I'm going to order the pump truck. I control. It's my site. I'm not relying on that sub to then be overbooked and then go, well, I can't be there Monday because I can't get concrete. No, I will call in concrete. I
hmm
will eliminate that excuse because I'm the one who's accountable for the schedule. No one else is. Everyone's part of the schedule, but no one else at the end of the day points and hey, Spence, we didn't hit the date. What the fuck?
hmm
That happens internally between you and Al, but like I'm the one on the spot when it becomes a paycheck, when it comes for a payment request or any of those things. I'm the guy that's accountable for it. And I don't know. And again, it's me being obviously biased because I suck at business, but like I I hope that there's more value in a day.
I don't think it's an either or. I think that everyone is going to tilt to one side or the other, but there's plenty of in between where, just like this morning, like I had a 15-minute phone call with Al on the way to the job site talking about, specific business things that need improvement, basically like struggles with other subs that are kicking the can to me. And like he is very much involved with with that, um, I think it's a good balance. And I think the other thing that happens with especially the Instagram world that we live in is it becomes very idealistic. That in the facade that is shown on social media is so far from reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's, we all know it's not reality on either end of the spectrum. On this luxury, you know, I see a ton of luxury accounts where it looks like everything is just perfect and everything is just dialed in. And I know that that is not reality. At the same time, I know the more traditional, whatever you like, bags on style builders, there's all kinds of struggles in that business model as well.
Yeah.
Frankly, there's struggles all over the place. This is a hard business to be in. Um, Both ends of the spectrum work. There's tons of in between, and like I just feel like where I'm at, and like I am super, comfortable obviously with my business partnership with Hammond Homes, and like I'm super proud of the product and just the growth trajectory. Not in terms of like revenue, but like getting better all the
Yeah.
time. Better team, better subs. What's broken? Let's fix it. Let's do better next time. Like that's what's really important at the end of the day.
So on a pivot,
Yep.
not a pivot, but I'm going to turn it back on you. Do you think you could have been more financially stable or in a better financial state if you had taken the first 5 to 10 years and focused on business and not the carpentry and the skill?
So while I was doing the carpentry, I was focused on the business, and so while I was slamming on baseboard, I had the business podcast on. And like I, I kind of see what you mean. It's just I'm in a completely different spot. And especially like part of my success has also come from this weird social media thing, that path that
That's its own
coincided
thing.
with the
I do
yeah.
think that you're very good at your numbers and tracking that. And I'm just saying that,
No, I see what you're saying. And I do think that
like, I do, just full disclosure, I think, not just because you're on the podcast, I think I think what you gained in talent for the industry, and I haven't watched your stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen you actually operate, but from the outside, I think that you were, like I've said it a few times, that there's guys that work 7 days a week that still don't make ends meet. They're
mm-hmm.
not gamblers. They're not addicts. They just are in a market where they have 2 kids and they have to pay for 3 kids or whatever it is, sports. It adds up quick in an industry that doesn't always reciprocate the talent that's out there. And I think you are very savvy about being able to not only grow, but grow in a methodical way and track your stuff so that way you're always making out. And I wish I could ask you one question. This was a 10-minute podcast and you just gave away your secret so that way everyone else could rinse and repeat. But I think it's obviously way deeper than that.
Well, yeah. And like, I'll tell you, like, just like me, I just took a personality test recently, like kind of like one of those gifts tests.
Did it say make sure you invoice more than once? I hope it did.
Not quite. And for years, I would take those personality tests, and my top like trait was a learner. And but recently, I took it, and like that top trait was strategy. Like,
Yeah.
in my mind, like I love strategy. And I think that that's one of like if there's a little bit of secret sauce in there that people probably don't see, is like I'm a pretty good strategic thinker. And that applies really well to business. Whenever you kind of marry that up with the love of the trade, with a love of business and good strategic thinking, that's kind of the combo that gets you where you need to be. Because I think I could have just as easily been that guy who is working 70 hours a week every week with nothing to show for it. I don't think trade, like skill wise, there's probably that much of a difference between me and that guy. It's on that strategic thinking point
Yeah.
where I think the difference is.
I think the point that I want to walk away with my question is that I think you can't just do one. You can't just rely on the trade and being very
Mm-hmm.
skilled at it, because you won't. I think if you work your way up and you do listen to the business podcast, I wish I went back to school like nights and weekends for business if I was going to take on this caliber of work. I should have stuck with decks, the way that I flew by the seat of my pants and I wanted handshakes and hugs to solve things. That's that should have been at a certain plateau. You know what I'm saying? I just
Mm-hmm.
think that it's super smart for people to walk away, whether you're building houses, doing remodels, doing trim packages, big or small, doing built-ins, is listening to those podcasts and figuring out, hey, I'm the same way as you. Is that, hey, if I shovel my driveway, I'm gonna improve on my stroke. I'm gonna improve on how much coverage I have and overlap in my footwork from one end of the driveway to the other. It's who I am. I'm the same way about how I ran my business. The problem was, yes, you're right. You can have the strategy, you can have the drive, you can have the love. The only rub is when you get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And when all those things get pushed aside and you're trying to survive and you let things go one after another, and that road is slippery.
Yeah. And that's true too. Like you always have to have like the humility to realize like one bad break and things can change drastically really quick.
But it's also
Um,
knowing your numbers. Like, you don't go out and buy 3 trucks and fit them all out and then go and try and find the people and then find the work.
yeah.
Like, you gotta know that, hey, I have the ability to buy this saw. Or I think so many builders screw up and go, oh yeah, no, I bought, like, let's just put it for me, is like heating and cooling. Like, we'll do 5-ton heating and cooling systems for our houses. Yeah, that gets invoiced to the client on every job every month that it's active. Some guys will do that, put it into a job, and then it's free for the next 4 jobs. No,
Mm-hmm.
those are little moments, like you said. That I think one of the best comments on the podcast was 60 minutes. Let's say $60 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
like $1. Like, you're taking a dump, you're sitting on your phone, like at the job.
Exactly.
You get me? Like,
You just spent $25. It's just
it's scrolling social media, taking a smash. It's just trying to be smart about it. I do think that anybody that is, let's say you're very talented right now, what you should be doing is also looking at the business end. There's so many people you meet at like these events, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to go off on my own." They're like 18. I'm like, dude, have you met with the bookkeeping department at your company now? Just
Mhm.
go hang out with them every Friday for the next 2 months before you say, I'm going off on my own. Because it always seems easy. Go dig in and turn over those stones that you don't even know are there before
Yeah.
you say that, you know?
And it's so multifaceted. Like there is no secret sauce. The secret sauce is it's just a ton of work. It's a ton of learning and a ton of discipline. It's not like you magically get these three things in alignment and it all works out. It's probably more like 500 things.
Yeah.
That's the reality of
Well,
it.
the Michael, well, no, Max, whatever, Gladwell is like 10,000 hours to
Yeah.
become,
Yep.
an expert. And I think there's not a bad, like, if you were to say the business end, doing the books, 10,000 hours, the same way you go after a tight miter or a cope should be how you go about your books, you know?
Yeah. And that goes even back to like when I hopped on the internet forums when I was 16, and I would just religiously read those forums. And you have all these old cranky contractors talking about
Salty. Yeah.
salty, just
Yeah.
and but they would have these conversations, and
Mm-hmm.
reading those like as a teenager, even like you're internalizing that, like you're learning your swagger, how to walk the walk, list like just kind of listening to these older guys. And I think that's something too. Like you internalize that the more you're around it, and it gives you an edge and it helps you have have a good foot forward getting started. So
It's a good drive. I mean, I think you can be driven in multiple facets of it, like we talked about, is perfecting one thing, but I think being good at multiple things becomes what's valuable to you in the craft. Now, I think what's crazy to me is that like I said before, I looked it up today. I don't. Someone asked me the day I had somebody on the podcast, and they said, "Oh, you probably had them on because their follower count." And I had to go back to see what their follower count was because I
Mm-hmm.
don't care.
Uh-huh.
But today I did look it up because you said something about YouTube, and I'm like, I not on YouTube at all. But I'm like, what's he rocking on YouTube? It was on the podcast. Someone else mentioned it, the host. So
Mm-hmm.
302,000 YouTube followers. That sounds
Yep.
important. And 131,000 on Instagram. Um, having that, I know there's people that have been on it, and it's this false popularity. Like, oh, I have 131,000 friends. But how did you, like, I heard you on different podcasts where you're like, yeah, if I have, like you said earlier, if we have downtime in the horizon, I will then kick over to making more content.
Yep.
And so how did, as an introvert like that, and the whole like imposter syndrome, what gave you the nerve to then go make video content?
So I started I remember like way back in the day, I first got on Instagram, and I remember it had been like, you and Tyler and Nick, you guys were pretty early
Yeah.
to Instagram. I could like that was who I started following when I hopped on. And I was not that guy. I was just there to watch. But I do love like I truly am passionate about learning and sharing what I know. So somehow I developed the courage eventually to post a picture, of my work, and then it turned into posting a story. And then it probably took a couple years, but eventually I turned the camera around and actually put my face on it. But that literally took years to do that. But I kept my profile on Instagram was a complete secret. Like nobody in my real life circle had any idea I had this account.
God, that was a
It
simpler world when
it
you could do
was
that.
it was such a good world though.
Yeah.
That social media was so great back then. And I just started like it was called Who's Your Carpenter is what it actually used to be called. And I would just like when I'm working, I'm just taking stories, showing how I do stuff, basically just rubbing shoulders with other carpenters, back and forth, back and forth. And that's how the account grew. It was just by accident. There was
Remember
never,
those 15-second time limits
oh
for
yeah,
stories?
yep,
Like I didn't get it. Damn, do it again and try and
I,
do it quicker.
yep. And I probably did thousands of stories
Takes.
doing those 15-second
Yeah.
like burst, burst,
Yeah.
burst. Cause I would end up with 20
Yeah.
20 of
Little
those little
dashes.
snippets
Yeah.
because I'm explaining how to set a newel post in 15-second clips, you know?
You go home, start talking to the wife in 15-second clips.
Yeah. But so that's what I was doing. The account was growing and it was really helping people. And then you get so much feedback from that guys who are benefiting from it and who are basically saying like you need to do more. And that's where I found the confidence. It wasn't in myself.
Yeah.
It was the feedback that kind of pushed me, and then also just seeing where our industry was at. Like we have a broken industry in terms of how we educate tradesmen.
There
If
is
you're
almost no education.
yeah, so like how do you learn? And it was like so I saw that as a problem. Um what my favorite quote about what entrepreneurship is taking ownership of a problem that is not your own. So taking ownership of a problem that is not your own. That to me is what an entrepreneur is. And to me, I saw the problem and I wanted to take ownership of it. And that's why I started the YouTube. And, it was never like a parabolic ascent. Like if you look at like my growth over time, it's literally on a chart. It's just basically a perfectly straight line. It's just been a grind. Just
Yeah.
just keep
But
putting
I mean,
out
I think
content.
that does give you that confidence that you may not have had, that many people like from the outside not asking for it, not demanding it. That your follower count grows. It
Yeah.
goes, oh my goodness. Like, let's say you're in a small town. I'm in a big town. Just being able to be acknowledged on that level is like, oh, so this does make sense. People do resonate with this, and it does give you this little boost to be like, I'm gonna. I'm going to take time out of my day tomorrow to do this.
Yeah, it's like last week I had a day. We're working in a we're working somewhere. It's like an hour and a half from where I live, basically. So it's way off the beaten path of where I live. Me and my guy, we go to lunch and go to pay the bill, and somebody bought your lunch, and I'm looking around. I don't have a clue in the world who. I don't recognize anybody. There's no one I know that lives around here.
Yeah.
Somebody bought my lunch, and I have a pretty good idea it was somebody connected through the social media that watches. Later that afternoon, I pull into the gas station. I'm filling up my van, and all of a sudden, this white van comes flying in. A guy pops out, and he starts talking to me, and he's just like saying thanks. He
Yeah.
watches my videos and stuff, and it helped him out and stuff. And like that is priceless. Like
Yeah.
that is so rewarding that you can't money can't buy that, and that's worth all the effort and everything to me. So I mean that's what keeps me going, but nobody really sees the impact that it's making as much as I do, just because I
Correct.
get more of the feedback. A lot of people, I think, who would know me would look at it and it would look like kind of odd, like why I do this. But I went through that, being broke, trying to start a family, making 13.50 an hour, you know, trying to start off in life, being married. And it's like that. So it's a powerful thing, a drive in me to want to help tradesmen. It comes from close to the heart to want to do that.
There's a point in time always where there's more questions than answers for us, and I think it's way easier now. I just think people need to take the opportunity. Like I will get DMs probably every day about someone struggling with something and just hitting me up. And I'll be at lunch and I look down at my phone. I'm like, oh, what's this? And then I'm like, it's this long DM. I'm like, all right, dude, I got to sit down and really focus on this because someone took the time to reach out, and I want to be smart and give them a thoughtful answer, not be like,
Yeah.
hey, sweet emoji, blah, blah. It's like, I want that. So I'm with you. I think helping people is a massive internal motivator when there is so much in life going on between family, business, and coworkers, and all these things that are just really tight to then even go out beyond that. So I can totally get it. But what I don't understand, even for me, I watch this saying for me to stand up, is to how do you monetize it?
So that's always the interesting thing for everyone. So
Well, it's
YouTube,
because it takes time,
yeah.
and especially I think it's funny. Like I'll pivot on this a little bit and just say like when I used to do the old podcast and do social media and then do speaking gigs and all these things, I'm always like,
Hmm.
even my mom was, people say it to me all the time, what are you doing all this for? Like,
Hmm.
what are you trying to do this for? You trying to be famous? Like, what are you doing? And it's they're not wrong. So
Yeah,
at a certain point within a family, if you can make some income for that, why not?
100%. Yeah, and it always, I felt like for me, it did also have to at least have the potential to pencil out. Obviously in the beginning, you are not going to make money on YouTube for
There's
quite a
that business
while.
guy again. Look at you, huh?
What? Well, it is. I mean, again, hey, strategy. This
I love it. No,
strategy. So that was my mindset starting out. I felt like an
you've been
actual
invoicing
calling.
YouTube for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like,
They owe
just
me a
add
lot
them
of
all
money.
up.
They owe me a lot of money. Thankfully, that is a direct deposit. Thankfully,
That's amazing.
and they decide what they're going to pay you. You don't get to invoice them. Um,
That's awesome.
no, but so I started out, and there's basically two primary ways you monetize it. One is ad revenue from the videos, and the other is affiliate marketing. So in my case, affiliate marketing was like if I'm using a tool, you give, hey guys, you want to support the channel? Here's a link to the tool. It's an
Yeah.
affiliate link, and then you get a percentage back on that. So those are the two key things. Like completely different model than with a podcast where you have like a formal sponsor, that's doing something like that. I probably should have, but I've never actually had like a sponsor that I did like an ad read for.
Mm.
Um, Even tool brands. Basically, there's one tool brand who sends me tools that I respect a lot. They don't pay me anything. It's just they believe in their tools and they want to put them in my hands to get visibility, and I respect that. I've kind of dabbled with some other large tool companies, but it was such a pain in the butt. The contracts and all the requirements and stuff,
Yeah.
like absolutely not worth the time at all.
I feel like it kind of breaks you out of your rhythm a little bit.
It
Like you do
does. It's
you
such a
do what you're
pain.
doing and you're good at what you do in your time. And then as soon as someone puts these requirements in, you're thinking about it and it screws up your whole mojo that I'm
Yeah.
like, now I'm being forced to do this. And I'm envious of people that do it. And I'm sure it isn't that hard to wrap my head around, but for me, it's just the little amount that I do it for. Even when I had those, it's like, oh, we'll do this. I'm like, oh man, I could do this crap.
It's not worth it. Yeah.
It's
To
just
me, it's
not who
not worth
I'm not
the
real.
headspace that it takes up wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't worth it. And then like I had at one tool company, like I I think I shot a video and submitted it, and then I had other tools in the background from other brands, and like that was not acceptable. And it's like I can't shoot a video building something in my shop with just one
Yeah.
color of tool. Like it just doesn't work that way. So it's just like, this isn't going to work.
It's so much drama.
Well, what it is these companies hire a social media marketing person. It's
Yeah.
not the
Agent.
actual
Yeah.
tool company that's doing it. It's an agency, and these agencies that it's some girl who graduated with a social media degree that's 22 years old that's managing this thing.
Making more than me.
Probably.
Probably. Yeah. I'm glad you thought about it. You're like, yeah, no, it's probably accurate.
No.
But it's worked out for you, meaning that I was impressed when you said, yeah, when I have a slow time, it kind of can offset those things. That's real,
Yeah, and so like starting out though, going back a handful of years when I was doing YouTube, I was always very strict that I kept the income from the content completely separate from the business.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to mix those two, and I always took whatever I made from content went directly into retirement savings.
Smart.
It never made its way into the business. It
Or
got
into your spending.
right. Yeah, and we're pretty good about we've basically we live very within our means. Very like a standard salary.
Golfing 3 times a week. I mean,
You know what?
I
So I get a membership from a 9-hole local club,
love it.
$400 a year, unlimited golf with a cart.
That's ridiculous. I'm moving.
Yeah. So
that's ridiculous.
Again, strategy.
Is that mini golf? Or is that real golf?
No, you know what? It's just a pretty basic golf course, but so it's not like I'm spending $50 a round on golf every time I go out.
I love it. My course is 39
Okay.
for 18. So it isn't bad, and they take care of me. Meaning, I get out at 6, so I go out by myself ahead of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go this. I'm gonna try and go this weekend. And this last 2 weeks, I did a little 5K, and the week before that, I did a little triathlon. So I was like, let's not try. I'm trying to be smart about not overloading myself, just with myself doing it on my own, thinking I need to. That's a problem. Like for doing what I've done over the years with the business and the industry, just running around and thinking that's enough, that it will be, the outcome will be worth it. This is the whole builder versus business part of it. And I think the harder I work, the more successful I'll be. It's not always the case,
No, it's unfortunately it's not.
And it's even with working out or, not giving yourself enough time. Like there's certain days where I'm like, dude, let's just chill. Today we're just chilling. Like give myself a rest day, even on a weekend. And it is hard for me to do that when you have this internal drive. but at a certain point, it is tough to throw it in neutral for a day.
I think there's seasons in life too, and you have to realize what season you're in. And I think, you know, like we obviously came into social media where the hustle and grind culture was huge.
People love that shit. 5 a.m. club, 3 a.m.
Yeah,
club.
and I think that especially too, like kind of our age, when like social media was kind of really kicking off, it was a lot of guys in late 20s to early 30s who were starting businesses in that grind stage where like you needed to be in that grind
Yeah,
stage. and
yeah,
and so that's what was shared. But the important thing is to remember, like, there's you have to, again, strategy, like you have to know that there's a season when that needs
yeah,
to end.
yeah.
And like for me, at this stage of life, my kids are growing up, and the the value add of me putting in extra 10 hours a week of work now is not the same as it was when I was 25.
100%.
Whenever you're trying to launch the rocket, it takes a huge amount of energy. But once you're a decade into your business plus, you should be in orbit. It should be taking less energy, and the cost is not worth it as much at this stage. So I try to be mindful of that too.
It's so true. It killed me that when I think I was like 15 or 18 years in, or maybe more, when I was with my old boss. And I thought that was equivalent to enough time that I could run my own thing again. You get me? Like what you just said, like, yeah, 10 years. I remember being in interviews for, like, I was on the side where we were hiring somebody and I'd walk away and my boss would be like, yeah, so there's two types of people out there. There's people that should be running their own business, and there's people that can't. And
Hmm.
when you're interviewing a 45-year-old carpenter or whatever it was, he was telling me, like, this is what you're looking out for. Like, they look great right now, but why aren't they doing their own thing?
Hmm.
Or is it motivation? Is it they don't want that burden? So are they going to want to run what I'm asking them to run? Similar burden. You get me? So like, there's only a few things that really stuck with me with certain bosses, and he said it to me, and for the longest time I was like, who am I? When I stopped working for him as a
Yeah.
carpenter in a lead, I was like, who am I? Like, which where do I fall in that category? Like, even when I got the job I'm at now, after being crushed by this industry and clients and finances and all that, I remember even being 28, 27 years in, I went to these interviews and they're like, what do you want to be? I'm like, I don't know. How about you meet me a few more times and you tell me where I'll be a good fit? That's how broken I
Yeah.
was when it came to, like, hey, am I success? I didn't know I was. I'm like, am I still successful at this? This is something I've done. I've walked more than, that's the only thing that's got me beat, than building. And it
Yeah.
was really tough to figure out where I fell. So that last house, like, we're going to a party Sunday, and I've got a note written to them. It's like, thank you for this. Like, thank
Yeah.
you for the opportunity to build this house and for me to find me again, because I was in such a place where I needed this and I didn't know I could. So they were an amazing client, and
Hmm.
obviously the company I work for is amazing. So that opportunity aligned, and I am super grateful for it, because I don't think I'd be recording these, or I'd be selling insurance, dude, or even worse, you know?
Yeah. It's tough. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, like what is the definition of success? Like, what does make
It's
how do we
changing for me all the time, to be honest with you.
exactly? And I think that there's not anybody who can define that. And we get caught up in a lot, like, oh, if your finances are in order, that's success. Not really. Not necessarily. Like, the finances at the end of the day mean jack squat in the grand scheme of things you know
Yeah.
um for me, success has meant impact. I'm way more proud of just helping a lot of people through the content than I am of even the work that I've probably, done. That is success. I guess that's the success that I strive for. I mean, that's how I would define what fulfills me in the end, and what I think ultimately matters, like at the end of life, is what you did to make the world a better place, make other people's life better, and ultimately for me, like to honor God with your gifts.
Yep.
Um, that's really important to me. So, you know, do you have to be in a quote unquote employer situation or an employee situation? It doesn't matter, you know. So,
Yeah, that was tough for me to wrap my head around for a long time, especially with that group that I hung out with, and in letting social media get to me was that how can I be like there was people calling me a paper contractor, all these things, and you're like, how do I wrap my head around this where I'm an older guy that I can actually still do all the tasks that I'm asking of said trades.
hmm
I can't do it as well as some of these amazingly skilled people, but and it won't be in the same timeline, but I can still that's where I think my rub was with that conversation with Jamie and Mike and Zane and you is that
hmm
like I can I can lead you so much further down what I'm asking for, like from you, that I'm giving you this like I'm launching you off this so you can be so much more productive,
hmm
efficient, and make more money, and not only that, have an enjoyable fucking time. Like
hmm
I do look at my job that regardless of all the other bullshit, I think what we said before is that at a certain point price point, the expectations of execution are guaranteed. Like when we interview with certain clients, they're not asking us about execution. They're not asking us about like how much is it going to cost. To be completely honest with you, it's in the realm. It's really who are they going to work with for X amount of months, and is that someone they want to work with? And then the next biggest thing is how much time are you saving me? Are you able to give me back 2 months compared to somebody else, or 4 months? And being able to do that and being having a good working environment, which sounds crazy, but that's people can get to the anyone can get to the finish line. How you
hmm
get there, in my eyes, is crucial, and
hmm
that's what I pride myself with. Is that yes, I make the Kool Aid, and I make sure that yes, execution is celebrated and it's done without any sacrifice. But yet we're doing it. Like you walk through the site, dude. It's a there's an energy there.
Yeah.
Like I want the client to feel it. Like I want the client to walk through and go, this is hip. I like this. This is awesome. I don't know what it is, but I want more of it. You know,
Uh-huh.
and that doesn't put money in my bank account. Just for the record,
Well,
for people.
that's the thing too, and that goes back to that question of like, what counts in the grand scheme of things? How do you define success? I think that applies to it too. Um, just that whole process, how you go about building the house and everything. It's not success is not necessarily the profit margin, you know.
Yeah,
So.
I haven't looked at it clearly, um, but it's tough. I mean,
I try to keep the profit margin and get the other success in other ways too. The
and I think
ways that
that's
really
amazing.
matter.
I don't, but I don't think you could have looked back 20 years ago and said this was going to be where you are,
Oh no.
which is
Absolutely
amazing. You
no.
know,
Heavens no.
because you would
Uh,
have written the label of success and the definition of it totally different. You know,
20 years ago. I just pulled something up off my desk here. I'm
was
looking
that is that an
for
invoice for a house 20 years ago you haven't sent?
this is my W-2 from my job before I quit my last job. Let me see if I can get that to oh, it's
Yeah, yeah.
backwards.
No,
Because
I
see,
can see it.
I almost made 30 grand that year. Um, you know,
That's amazing.
uh, I yeah, I didn't ever have very high hopes. Now my camera's all screwed up. Sorry.
No, you're
Um,
fine.
and like whenever I was going out on my own, trying to start out in business, I had like a Microsoft Word document that had what I thought my target revenue might be. And
Really?
I mean, dude, oh yeah, it was so low that it was just unreal.
But that's savvy that you
What?
even had that.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a joke. But yeah, I had it.
It was on your peripheral
Yeah.
at least.
So
I think it's unbelievable, man. I I don't think I've missed anything that I want to talk about. I think you're talked a little bit about pre-con, how you price stuff, sending it off, change orders. You don't do any because you just bill at the end. Trim carpentry. Oh, the shop. Like, what's the? I feel like you're doing a little bit. You talked a little bit about supplying more materials, and then doing a little bit more stuff in the shop, and then getting it prefab so it's ready to go. Like, what's the benefit beyond efficiency? Are you able to? You talked a little bit more margin and control. What
yeah,
is the thought process there?
just simply like a lot of these businesses, you look at different sub trades and they're capturing margin by marking up materials.
Yeah,
And
plumbing with pipe,
yep,
all that
yep.
stuff. Yep.
Some of the like HVAC contractors and stuff, that specialty equipment that they're ordering in, they can put big markups on that stuff. And it's a huge advantage in those businesses. In the trim carpentry subcontracting, like traditionally we're just labor only. And
Mm.
so that's very just limiting on, you're only making profit off of your labor. So for me, I looked at it and it's like, well, the lumber yard is getting the plywood. I'm literally doing their job for them and giving them the material
You're doing the
takeoff.
stock list. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
crazy.
I'm doing their job for them and they're capturing all the markup on it. So why don't I look to source the material from distributors and just get it direct, and then I'm capturing that markup and it's easier for me because it's going directly to my shop or I'm stocking it in my shop, and there's a bunch of different advantages with it. So that was kind of the thought process there. So far, like I don't move that much material through my shop. Um but
But
it
even if you didn't, it's not volume. It's the fact that you control, and you're not giving away markup or margin
right,
to
yeah.
somebody that's not doing any work. They're just basically a
Yeah.
distributor.
That's one of the biggest things that frosts me kind of right now. I shouldn't say that lumberyard, like they do add value, but it's like whenever you have these trim packages with, almost like over 100 grand in materials, and I'm doing the whole takeoff, and it takes me days to do the
Yeah.
takeoff a lot of times, and they can essentially plug that into the computer and capture whatever 30-40% margin on it. It's kind of a
So, but are
bummer.
you buying it through them, or
No,
is
the builder buys that.
so then
Yep.
they get the points for like a trip to Tahiti?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of benefits
So
there,
you're
but
you're not getting any of it. Maybe you'll get like to a baseball game or something. They give you
yeah,
tickets to the box.
that's just kind of one of those things that I accept about this is just how the market works. And I've never really made a big deal about it. Honestly, I don't know that I even would want the liability for a lot of the material.
Mm.
A lot of times people just screw stuff up constantly. You know that, like as a builder, it's just it's amazing the amount of stuff that can get screwed up, and you're ordering expensive oak doors and everything, and it's just like, what? I kind of don't even know that I want to deal with that. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to let the builder capture that margin most of the time.
So, but what made you get a shop?
So I I operated out of my attached garage, up to 3 years ago, and it was a super lean setup. It worked well, served me well, and it was good for a season, but it was impossible. I shouldn't say it's impossible, but I wasn't going to be able to grow out of the situation that I had here, and it just kind of worked out that another business, an electrical plumbing business, was selling this property. It's 4 acres. It's a 9,000 square foot shop, and it just fit the scenario that I was in. We also hoped to build a house eventually, and it was on 4 acres. Already has a septic system. Already has a well. So it's basically a building lot already, and it's got the shop. So it was kind of just a perfect
Yeah.
scenario, and felt like it was a good door to walk through. It was definitely expensive, but it was part of it.
Strategy, right?
It is, yep. So, but no, it's been a good thing. The advice that I always got on a shop that I haven't quite adhered to was you can't justify a shop until you have somebody in there full time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be generating revenue out of that shop. And I would say that I don't monetize it nearly as to anywhere close to the level that it could be monetized. I justify it a little bit that it's just like a convenience to some degree.
So,
Um,
do you think the only way to do that is to make more millwork, like cabinetry?
that's how I would do it,
Yeah.
with my business model. That would make the most sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
that's
don't,
interesting.
I thought for a while that I was really serious about getting into cabinetry, and I thought I would grow the cabinetry side of the business in the shop a lot more. And I kind of just realized that the more I went down that road, I was going to end up just sitting at a desk all day long, just
Mm.
doing designs, plans, estimates, and it was going to just completely take me out of the game of working with my hands. So I've kind of pulled back from that idea as much, and focusing more again on like just the field installation, having a few guys for that.
That's smart. I didn't do that. I had a cabinet shop for 2 years.
Did you? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
did
kind of remember that.
a little bit. Yeah, you don't need to. It wasn't worth it. I still have an unfinished office that I'm in right now. That's a folding table for my wife. I'm on the same one, so nothing to brag about there. My question to you, which is something I think is part of the industry, is that like when do you find yourself like we're old enough now that you when you go along and you try and figure things out, you're like, I need to sit down and write this, or I need to sit down and do this, and you can never do what you need to get done in that time frame. So I find myself whenever I drive to work, I I I'm solving problems in my brain. And some of my most productive
Mm-hmm.
days are when I'm in my car and I have like a song on repeat, which is psychotic. But my brain is just I could be driving, but I'm in that flow state where my brain's working through all these different things. When do you find because you're technically savvy enough from everything I've seen is that you're thinking through all these little like little details and tweaks that aren't on the drawings, aren't there,
Mm-hmm.
are basically self performed to help efficiency, and like it's all in your brain. But
Yeah.
when do you find yourself figuring those things out? Is it like going to bed if you're on the golf course? Like tell me the secret, man. Let it out.
Definitely not
Let's
on the
break
golf
news.
course. The golf course is where I go to not think about anything.
Good for you.
Um, um, like the house I'm on, for example, right now with those like acoustic ceilings, the detail around the perimeter of those was really difficult to execute because the tray was dropped, but you only had about 4 inches on the side
Yeah.
around those tray ceilings, so you had no way to
Nail
fasten
it.
the perimeter trim.
Yeah.
And it's like that detail, for example, I literally had bouncing in my brain for probably 2 months,
Right?
you know,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like there. And you're just kind of thinking of different ways that
I,
could be
I
done.
joke about it like it's an app that's open on your phone in the background.
It is. It
It's
is.
still collecting data, it's still listening to you, but it's the same thing. I think that's a beauty of what we do is that it's
Yeah.
just, and it's always, and then it comes and it's like, I got it. I know what it is.
Yeah. And it's awesome whenever that happens, and it's like, oh yeah, like this is like the way we're doing that detail, like I'm super proud of how it's working out. Like
Yeah. It
it's
looks
money.
awesome.
It's we're using the Lamello K20 biscuits. It's like a biscuit that's got barbs on it.
Yeah.
So we were putting this 1x2 perimeter around the outside, and it's got a groove in it on these two different pieces. You put this barbed biscuit in there and just snap it in.
Yeah. That's how we
So
have
we
almost all our face frames and stuff go in like
Yeah,
that.
yep. So that I was super happy with how that worked out. There's all kinds of stuff on a job. some jobs are a lot easier than others. Like the next house we've got, it's very traditional, super millwork heavy. So
Yeah.
there's tons of linear feet of millwork, but it's not nearly as mentally demanding, on for me in terms of having to like create new solutions to execute details.
So have you found that spot where like for me, it's weird, like the car. Like I could bring my own lunch to work, but I'd rather drive to Panera. And that drive, I can't tell you how valuable it is for me that I found myself solving because it all goes in my notebook. I
Mm-hmm.
carry it with me everywhere I go. So I'm like, oh, I'll legit pull over
Yeah.
just to write shit down. So it's
Mm-hmm.
now I've made space and put it somewhere. So I found that like I find that if I'll listen to a book when I'm golfing by myself, which is motivating. And then when I run, it's something that it usually clears my head in the beginning of the run, and on the way back, it will give me motivation, not so much work wise, but more for podcasts or like a book or a presentation. You get me? Like I'll find
Mm-hmm.
myself. I have like these things that are working through my head where I want to do like a guest lecturing spot for schools, whether it's either a Vogue school or just a traditional school, and go, all right, I'm putting this video. Like my brain will go, like, how do you want this video to look? How do you want to get? How are you going to hook kids that are more visual, that aren't listening to me but want the visual? So like I
Mm-hmm.
during a run, my brain will just like I won't even know that I'm running, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back and be like, dude, that was it. And then I'll go to write the voice to the text, and I'll go, this is what we have to do. I got to create this video. This is how a kid's going to like it. And I need to get that done so that way I have that down, so that way I can go back to these notes and edit. Like the note I sent you is like literally all these different moments where I'm like, that I need to ask
Yeah.
this. And it's not in any order. It's just how my brain's doing it. So I found these little moments in time that if I do need to work through something, meaning I can't think about other things, then I have to go for a run. Like I
Mm-hmm.
found myself at this point in time in my life where I need these certain things to be able to function efficiently.
Kind of like just process everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when otherwise it all builds up, and then
Yeah.
I get this clouded kind of version of myself where then it feels like I'm bogged down, and
Yeah.
that really impacts my motivation, what I can do and what I can accomplish.
Have you ever heard of David Allen? He's an author. He wrote the book Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity.
No, I haven't.
So basically, everything you just said is exactly kind of what he talks about and teaches. He's basically, the idea is, your brain is like a computer. You get too many programs open on it at once and it's going to crash.
Really?
you know, your performance drops, you get stressed and all that stuff. And his book was huge for me. I'm the same. I don't carry like an actual paper notebook, but on my phone, like a notes app,
Yeah.
I'm the same. Like I have to just stop and I constantly have a list of running, items that
I
are
get
just on my,
tabs. I get tabs
yeah,
for
there's
each one.
all kinds. Yep,
Yeah. I'm looking at them
I've
right now.
got everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've even got like golf swing stuff. I've got
That's in
pages.
my saved Instagram. I have saved
Okay,
folders in
yeah,
Instagram, which is
yeah.
like golf,
Golf
Instagram.
swing revelations. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. It's stupid. It's like I should work on
But
that practice swing.
yeah. But he calls those open loops. And
Yeah.
basically you get too many open loops and it just affects performance, and you got to get those, basically capture those open loops in some kind of organizational system, whether it's a notebook or a notes app or something. But that's been huge for me too, to be able to do that. I definitely do that. But
It's been over the last couple of years. It's like when I was going through my tough time, I forced myself to run just to
yeah.
clear my head. That's where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
Was clearing my head, and then I'm just trying to be more cognizant of like, what am I getting out of this task that I'm doing? And I'm like, oh, every time I run, I'm getting this. I'm able to then focus and dial in this area to a point where by the end of the run, I've captured that answer or that epiphany or that
Mm-hmm.
topic and then write to it. So It's I like that because then if I have to turn to something, I can go, all right, let's just go for a run. Let's just go get
Yeah.
this done and see if it works.
One thing that like really blows my mind in the building industry is like, for someone like you, any like high level project manager or designer who is having to juggle multiple homes and all of the different details, that are going on, that is so many open loops. It's insane.
It's what
And
it's good though. It's good for me. It's crazy. I would like on a slow day. Let's just be honest.
yeah.
Like, well, if there's like 8 or like or less trucks on site,
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm useless. I have no value right now. Like anyone could run this. Anyone.
Oh man,
It's psychotic. I've been averaging 20 to 25 trucks on site.
that is insane.
No, it's funny. Like that's just the norm. And like today, I'm walking out. I'm like one. I
Oh
literally do
my
it out loud. I'm like
goodness.
one, two. I'm like, oh no, we're counting in twos now. We're not even doing singles. We're doing twos. And my buddy Austin, um, he did a story. He's like, we're finishing this job out, and he's driving up the driveway. It was one. He got to like 6, and I'm like, that's a day I hate. Is like
Yeah.
I like when we got up to 80 guys on site the last job, and we did that. I was like, especially coming from a place I was when I started that job, like I don't know if I should do this. If I'm really
Yeah.
can I say yes to this project and then let them down? And then doing that and ramping up, which is great. Like when you're doing excavation, you get 4 or 5 guys. Even though the excavator, I was like, hey, this is this level of construction. I go, hey, Steve, we're ready to knock the house down. Dude, he pulled in with 3 low boys and dropped off 3 machines with 3 operators. And they went ham on this house from every direction. I'm like, holy shit, this is where we're at. So like I had to like my ears got perked up and I'm like, we got to
Uh-huh.
be on. Like I'm not
Yeah.
just getting a site guy, I'm getting like an army. And
Uh-huh.
then when it got to foundation, it was actually my foundation guy. So we had 11 guys, framer, blah, blah. But it was a slow progression up, which was great, you know? And I think a lot of guys and girls in my industry for the building side of it get this false sense, they get lured in. Like, oh, this is doable. And then you get this whole like rough frame stage, which is something I want to talk to you about for schedule. Cause like I want to talk to no plumber's been willing to come on the podcast or HVAC guy or
Okay.
electrician, to be honest with you. But I don't know how they schedule things where they bid a job, then they come
Hmm.
for roughs, then they don't know when they're supposed to come back. And how they're
Hmm.
supposed to put that on a schedule and on the books
Hmm.
blows my mind. So
Yeah.
they might have to grab 2 or 3 products because 1 or 2 products are delayed. And then
Yeah.
they could be, yeah, come now. So like
Yeah.
for you, how often are you checking in on these builds to be like, all right, the infrastructure is where I want it. I know you did some framing on the ceilings to be able to create
Yeah.
that thing, but how much are you going like, are you at the frame stage to make sure it's good? Or so that way you're not doing more work?
So I do a framing punch where we go in, we mark we mark studs, we mark water lines, we go to every door opening, we plumb all the door openings to make sure they're all good. Um, and we set pocket door tracks at
Smart.
that time at rough frame stage.
HD?
But
HD pocket.
no, I
Come.
have installed
All
HD.
right, we're gonna end the podcast here. Yeah.
We have talked about it, and I'll tell you, it's a logistical thing for me right now. Is just the size of the kits and how do I get them to the job site type thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Just have them shipped to the
but
warehouse. It's fun. They'll fit in the
yeah,
van. I promise.
but anyways, like on the scheduling, I'm in communication with the project managers just quite a bit on, hey, how are things looking here? Um, and I've learned not to, really trust. I don't trust the schedule and builder trend.
Yeah, you
Um,
shouldn't. It's irrelevant.
yeah, it's too much of a moving target. And I will say one thing, like I really appreciate in a builder is some level of flexibility. I've worked with I worked for like one mid-range home builder in particular, and they were the most dogmatic with their schedule. Like 4 to 6 months in advance, they would tell you the day that you were going to start trim phase. and that was the day that you were starting
Otherwise,
trim
you're going to get
phase.
fired. I remember you told me.
Yeah,
You said the
and
story. Yeah.
and like that blows my mind. That is so stressful to me. I want nothing to do with that. You
But like,
know.
how can they even ensure quality at that point if they're calling an audible at that stage and letting you go? That's crazy. I couldn't even imagine even comprehending that.
Well, it's not that they're really calling an audible. It's just they have their subcontractor pool so just they own them. They own them. You know,
Yeah,
that's all there is to it. And I don't know. It worked for them. They made it work.
I get you.
They had an old project manager who ran the schedule who was an old wrestling guy, and he was just a one of a kind breed. And so I don't know if it still
Dude,
operates
paint
that.
that picture, please. Paint the picture of.
So I was doing a job for them. They called me to trim a basement. So they had basically finished this house, but they had left the basement unfinished. I think they sold the house then, and the client decided, hey, I'd like to have you finish the basement. So my job was to come in one day. You get one day, trim the entire basement, install all the doors, base case, everything. One day. That's what you get. And so it was getting to be about like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was a summer day, and I don't think they had the air on in the house, but it was hot. Anyways, I called this guy and I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm going to get done today. I'm going to have to come back tomorrow. Okay, all right, whatever. He shows up a little while later with a Monster energy drink in his hand, ice cold. And he's like, hey, I thought you might be thirsty, so I brought you something to drink. And it was like hot. It's like it sounded good. So I downed this
Oh
Monster energy
Jesus!
drink, and like all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I'm gonna finish this thing. And I stayed till 9 o'clock that night, finished it. And all of a sudden it hit me later is like he drugged me. And I called him the next day and I was like, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Like, that's insane. Like, you're stopping at job sites to drug guys to
I
keep
like
them
his style.
going.
I like his
Like,
style.
that is true old school stuff right there. They
Yeah.
can't teach you that.
Nope. We used to do Red Bull Tuesdays for my framers back in the day. I'd bring a cooler full of Red Bulls on Tuesdays. Yeah, that was my jam. Get everyone
this,
going.
this guy was crazy. Like, he would pull up to a job site and there'd be like a group of Amish framing crew, and he'd be like, hey, I'm going to the gas station, you guys want something to drink? And they're like, oh yeah, sounds great, get something. And he would just leave, and he just like wouldn't get him anything.
What?
Like, he was just he was a one of a kind guy, just very unique guy.
That's crazy. I love that though. I like those personalities. Those people are what makes this industry kind of. They're everywhere. It's
Everyone respected him. He was one of those guys, like, he had everyone's respect, but he kept it light by just screwing around with people a lot.
I love that. It's kind of like the attitude I have is that I want people not only to have to do their job, but I want them to enjoy the space, you know. And it's just trying to like I love going through it and celebrating that stuff and like bringing the dog on Wednesdays. She like runs around and tackles everybody, and
Hmm.
they all look for it. Like there's I think we had like 30 guys there today, and it's such a good energy. And like telling the client, they're like, "Who's where?" And they're like, "Oh, they're on. There's this guy on the attic. There's this guy here. There's like outside, inside. Oh, is the pool guy there? Yeah, they're doing the track, but then the landscapers are great on the other side, so they can plant and hydro seed. And it's like, yeah, look at Procort's in the images, and like he's scrolling through it because our client's now out of state, and it's just like it's so. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't need a thank you. It's so
Yeah,
satisfying when they're just like, dude, that's unreal. Yep, unreal. It's awesome.
that sounds unreal. Honestly, like that sounds like a whole lot going on. Like, what's the price tag on these jobs?
I don't know if I can say it. I was scolded one day by one of the architects that I got close to the price point, but
Okay,
it's a lot.
it's a lot. I
Let's
mean, it
just
has to be to have that many guys on site. Like, you got to be working with some big numbers.
yeah,
I would
it's
think.
huge. It's
Yeah.
bigger than I've ever done. Let's say like when I thought. So I'll put it this way: when I've said this before, one of the companies I interviewed with, they were like, hey, we gotta come out and see one of your builds. So I was doing this big one in Carlisle that was like, we cleared the lot, put in like 1,000-foot road, and we put this massive house. Like, it was, a lot of it was one story. So the second floor was only like 3 bedrooms and a bathroom and a study on the second floor, but it was sprawling. Okay. And this client beat me up the whole way through this project. It was right when COVID started. And they told me they had gotten another bid from somebody else. It was like 4 million. And I'm like, oh, we'll look at it. And I remember I got the price down for just land clearing, like cut the number in half. And I just went about it. I just went and bid each section, and where the numbers came in, they came in. So I think we were 1.7 for the build of the construction, not land clearing, all that. 1.7 for construction. And then I think we landed at 2.2, and I took heat for that. And it was like, dude, you added upstate French doors along the whole back elevation with Cremon bolts and all that. And we had cedar on the main house in the garage, but everything, all the other out, how it all flanked out, we did those in asphalt. So it was like an old farmhouse. You could get away with value engineering and having different textures. And then as soon as the cedar went on, they're like, we want cedar everywhere. I'm like, all right. So it was all upgrades along their end. Okay. So I'm at 2.2. So I walked this builder through it, and it's the owner and his number 2. And we walked the whole property, and we're at the finish stage. So it's like, it looks, but you don't ever walk people through. Like, you don't walk another builder of a higher caliber. Like, their price point is much higher.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm at like $450 to $600 a square foot, these guys hang in, let's say, $800 to $1,200 or higher square foot costs. So we walk it all, and they're like, so where are you at for numbers? I'm like, yeah, I'm at 2.2. They're like, this is a $12 million house. And I was like, huh. So I was executing at a level
Yeah.
that I could have been doubling. So like, for what I get to do now, you're telling me I get the best sub pool ever, and the budget is double what I'm used to, but the
Mm-hmm.
product is very similar to what I was creating before.
Yeah.
So I don't have to work with all the Brazilians and having to squeeze, like, to try and get, like, I said this to a client where they were like, hey, why don't we just use so-and-so roofing for roofing? I'm like, because I'd have to be on the roof.
Yeah.
Like, if you're putting let's just put a number out there, $200,000 material for the roof. And if they don't put the underlayment down, which is like maybe 25,000, the investment that you're not going to get right at that early stage, because it's more labor than material, then when you put the real finish on top of it and it's wrong, you're never going to find them again. And then you're out this massive expense for no reason at all, but because of the capability of the crew. Like, there's only certain products that you can really manage. Like, if I'm on the roof, like, just chalk straight lines, like even asphalt, to make sure that it lines up nice, or like we just did slate, to make sure it's dialed. And I go up there and I watch them snap their double sets of lines. They do it
Mm-hmm.
every 6 feet. They do a double set of lines. And I'm like, dude, that's what you need. Another
Yeah.
crew is just going to go until you say it's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, it's really tough. So for me, yeah, we're doing products where I thought I was doing a high end, which was 2.2 to 3.1.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, it should have been in the 4 million to 8 million range
Yeah.
for the same product, but it cost me 3 times as much management and
Yeah.
how much effort to get that product to where it was. Is you're making
That's
magic happen.
Yeah, and that's like, we have this conversation all the time. Like, you, if you have the poor subs, subs that just aren't, they're C level, they're
Mhm.
not A or B level, you have to subsidize them with really good project management. That's the
100%.
only way to make it work. Otherwise, you're just going to fight with, screw ups and poor communication and stuff. And like, somebody has to pay for it. And like, my biggest struggle is those C level subs end up kicking the can down the road to me.
Yeah.
And just by nature of where I come into the build, I have to resolve their issues.
Yeah.
So they're subsidizing their business with my
you.
labor, and that's been a challenge for me to kind of communicate that, because a big thing for me is like, I'm willing to take ownership of those things. Like, I will fix them if it needs fixed, but I have to be compensated for it. Like I can't do it for free. Well, then, okay, so let's say that I've got 10 sub trades who are all kicking the can to me, and I'm doing just, they might be little things, but they all add up.
Yep.
That affects my price point. And then one day all of a sudden it can be like, well, my price looks a little expensive. And it's like, well, yeah, because I'm doing 10 sub trades
Yeah. I'm
punch
punching out
list,
everyone else. Yeah.
and so like I've kind of had to step back and like basically communicate a lot more of all the stuff that I am doing, which is not fun. Uh, because it makes you vulnerable in your business. If you keep capturing more and more of other people's screw ups and punch list, then it affects your price point and all that stuff. But
And you're right. I think it's, you talked about this before in one of the other podcasts where you said there's two mentalities. I'm trying to find it in my notes.
abundance and
Yes.
scarcity.
Yes. But you made it, the terms I thought about it is like when you have, I think a lot of people in our industry have this scarcity with it. They keep saying yes to a lot of work. And then when they have a good amount of work, then they can start saying no. But so many people get into the rhythm of always saying yes
Mm-hmm.
that like what you're saying right now is amazing to me. Is that like, I'm realizing I'm capturing all this shrapnel from all this stuff, and one of these is going to be a deep cut.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to understand from that is like, when do you get cut deep enough that you then raise your hand to somebody
Yeah.
that is a massive contributor to your business asset,
Yeah.
where you're like, all right, no, maybe I am that stopgap for everybody.
Yeah. No, we have this conversation all the time.
It's not changing.
I mean, just being real here. I mean, and it is something like it's not just the subs. Sometimes the project managers aren't taking ownership either. And that's where, Al and I will communicate on that. And like, hey, this is what's going on. This is the situation. This is what I'm seeing. And he always takes it well from me. Like I said, we've got a really good relationship, so I can have those kind of deep level business conversations. Like when I see something in the culture that's not good,
Yeah,
I can have that conversation with him. And
that's huge.
so it is we're very much both aligned, like in how we think about things, the ownership mentality, and that's really big. If I got to the point where like I felt like my voice wasn't heard, that would suck.
Yeah,
If it's just like, well, deal with it, that would suck. But it's not like that. And like I said, in this industry, we can be really idealistic and just expect all these subs to be A players. That's just not reality. And I've it's greatly increased my happiness level to accept that, because I used to get so mad, like just like it was completely incomprehensible. Why would this guy do this? Like, how can you be that kind of human who just doesn't give a crap about the
yeah.
next guy? And it's just like, you know what? It's just, it is what it is, and that's what gives me job security.
Well, part of it makes me worry that, like, not worry, but think of, it's like you watch certain builds, and locally I see certain builders that are like, oh, I'm using this guy, but I'm using this guy's electrician. It's like these two do not play in the same field. Like,
Hmm.
how is that possible that they're mixing? And it's just trying to find value. I'm like, maybe Al's downgrading the plaster and the framer so they can afford you, Spence. So maybe it's a
You
little
know
bit of a
what?
cut, but
We just had a conversation, and I think like word for word, Al's philosophy was, I want to have the best subs,
yeah,
period, across the board. And then it's my job to sell that value and, find the clients who are willing to
that's
pay for
huge.
that,
That's an amazing, because it's, like I said, it's hard to do, and once you get that clout in the industry, and at that level, like, I never got there. I always was fighting. That's why I ask these questions. I'm like, I was always fighting for a little bit more, and I always get kicked back down. I get, if I wanted $50, I get 25. So I was never getting what I thought I deserved. And you do that long enough that that, let's say over 5 years, you've been fighting for $50 when you should have been fighting for 200 because you
Hmm.
never made that gap. So to me, it's amazing to me when you're like, yeah, I'm paying for this in cash, paying for that in cash. I'm staying lean. I'm being very methodical about how I spend stuff and do this. When you got guys that you watch on social media, it's like, boom, brand new sprinters, all lettered. And you're like, dude, how did you do that? Oh no, I put my house up for collateral. It's like, okay, no one said that. Or my
Yeah.
parents put up money for all these things to create it. So it's just interesting, and it's so false when you're an authentic guy that's on social giving it away and making YouTube give you some benefit back, which is the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, well, it's tough for me to find sponsors because I'm like, I literally have gotten probably 5 or 6 companies reach out, and I'm like, I don't use it.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I'm not going to make it up. I only do what, like, and so now I'm like, do I reach out to companies I do use? And like, I reached out to one, and they're like, yeah. And so I send them like just an email, and I haven't heard back. I'm like, all right, okay, leave that alone.
Yeah.
Maybe they do a marketing meeting once a quarter. So I don't need it, but it would be nice to figure out like what I'm trying to do. It's funny, I'm not doing it because I know I don't want to understand the value, which is like emailing back and forth, locking this up, and sitting down with you, and then doing the editing. I want to calculate how much that is in time, and then times that by how much I make on a daily basis at work, and then
Hmm.
put that in the value of what I should be. You get
Yeah.
me? Is what I should
Yeah.
be asking for this time. So who's gonna be the one that helps offset that? Because otherwise, I should just be sleeping, working out, hanging
Yeah.
out with my family, or what it is. What is the benefit? So
Well, should you though? Because there's a deeper, like I feel like I know you well enough to know that there's a deeper why behind that, and you want to do it. Like you feel like you want to contribute in that way.
yeah,
Same as me. Like I don't really even think about like the YouTube monetization. It's just to me, it's just a grind that I do, and
yeah,
it is what it is because I want to do it. And obviously, in the back of my mind, there's that strategy. Like I know that it needs to pay off a certain amount, but I think if we go into any kind of content creation space, especially at first, with kind of the mindset of like I need to make X amount, it's usually not going to work
yeah,
because it takes so long. You have to create so much before it really starts to pay very well. And like even for me, like the YouTube channels, a lot of people don't realize like they tend to go up for a number of years and then they tend to get a little bit stale.
to get you hooked.
Well, no, what I mean is like it's just kind of the natural psychology of when people start a channel, they're going to put their best stuff out kind of first, and you kind of enjoy binge watching it for a while, but after a while you've kind of seen what there is
To
to
see,
see to some degree. And after that kind of high trajectory, upper trajectory period of time, it comes back down to kind of a happy medium where then you just kind of have your hardcore loyal subscribers
yeah,
that are watching. And for the most part, that's kind of where my channel's at, is it's like very interested people, mostly professionals in the finished carpentry space. That's who's viewing the videos weekly. But I'm not trying to make things go viral.
yeah.
You know,
We're too old for that
I
shit.
right. And like I want to create the content that I would have wanted to consume.
Yeah,
That's the whole thing.
and that's where I'm
And
at. Is that I want to.
yeah,
I have a. It's like I feel like I'm Adam Sandler, and I just want to make something that doesn't exist.
yeah.
But to do what I want to do, especially with the road I've been on, I can't afford to do it. So I
Hmm.
think my brain is like, same as you, is like, all right, so what's the value? And if I can back up that value, that this is how long it takes me to create this content, and it helps me get the cameras and give me the time to go, hey, I can take a day off on a Friday, go see said builder and do a full tour with my camera and drone and all that stuff and interview them. and be able to give that content that's not out there. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to see if it works. You get me? And
Yeah.
right now it's so tough for me to be able to do it. This is as far as I can go with it. You know, is doing a, Wednesday night podcast where there's this thing where I want to try and create this because I know the characters that are out there, like to be able to capture Alan his natural environment and interacting with you. And if that meant
Mm-hmm.
I go out there for a weekend and capture it, and then I sit back and edit it the way I want, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'd love to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
without having it affect my family's bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rub. And I think that's the motivation to try and figure out how much does it cost to do that? Do I have partners that will help do that? And then let me go try and make this content on my terms. You just help supply the funds for it, but the content is what I want. And it's all in here. And
Yeah.
like I've already signed up for this year's Warren Miller film. He's a ski guy that he
Okay.
does this narration. So it's like you already have the voice. Like I've been to the shows and people are like, oh, that's Johnny. I'm like, that's ridiculous. People recognize the voice. But it's like if you can narrate this kind of, it's a narration. Look, it's on YouTube. Check it out.
Okay.
But yeah, it's cool because it's like the byproduct of meeting all these characters is that they're amazing. They jump off a helicopter and go ski and create amazing things, but like they're just people. And same thing as
Mm-hmm.
you and me is like we're just people, but our brain frequency is at a different level that these things are what we care about. And then like you say, hey, I'm looking at this angle, and me being able to zoom in on that with a beautiful camera and edit it
Mm-hmm.
together and have
Mm-hmm.
this essence of you in this video is what I'm trying to, it's like a little side project,
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun. We'll see.
I think you just have to throw things at the wall and see what sticks, however that saying goes. But I look at, all the different content creators that I've kind of watched evolve over the years, and all of them that have really kind of, I don't know, been lasting and had something kind of take off, they've all started it as just a passion project.
Yeah.
The initial motive behind it was, I feel like most of them, it happened by accident.
Yeah.
It's just they're just doing their thing, and it just kind of turned into something. And I think that's all we do is just you do what you feel like you're supposed to do, you feel like what you want to do, and just see what happens with it.
That's the
that
plan,
that
baby.
Yeah, but I think having some good strategy in there is good too.
Hey, I'll do it. I'll invoice the company at the end. That's what I'll do. I'll just come up with it and see if it works. I don't know. I'm just trying to prove myself wrong. But Spence, you're almost 3 hours in, brother.
No, it was great catching up with you.
Dude.
I've always respected your passion for the build a lot, and it was good to have the one-on-one.
Yeah, dude, it was fun. I appreciate it. I love what you're doing, and I got to get out there and walk your stuff one of these days. For real.
Yeah.
I
Let
would
me
love
know
to.
if you're in town sometime.
I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna try and do road trips. My first one's gonna be October. I'm gonna go to Pennsylvania. I've been saying that for a couple of weeks, but I'm locking it up. So I'll see Black Boots, then John Marley, then Detmore, and then one
Okay.
more. So I'm gonna do like a little road trip and hit
All
4
right.
people.
Yeah.
But dude, you rock. I appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on and giving me 3 hours of all the wisdom.
Yeah. Likewise, it was fun and appreciate it as well.
Send me an invoice. Thanks, brother.
All right. We'll see you.